I'd like to call the March 2023 Committee on Accreditation meeting to order. Will the staff please call the roll?
Jomalyn Palatayo.
Here.
Augustine Cervantes.
Here.
Kathy Kreisha. Katrina Chakowski. Cheryl Forbes.
Here.
Bob Fraley.
Here.
Alan Hollis.
Here.
Mike Hillis.
Here.
Marty Martinez.
Here.
Jason Lee.
Here.
Gerard Morrison.
Yep.
Kevin Taylor.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Great. Nice to see you all. Thanks for making the trek up here. And we have a break in the rain, so hopefully we'll be able to beat that rain and get on home after this. So thanks again for being here. This meeting is being conducted in person. All members and most staff are participating in the commission office. Many participants of this meeting and some staff will be attending virtually. The Zoom link has been made available to the public. As a reminder, we're using microphones, so please press the button on your microphone to activate it when you speak. If you do not, those listening online will not be able to hear your comments and they will not be recorded. So please, even if you are making a brief comment, remember to push the button before you speak. For those who are participating by Zoom, we'd like to ask that everyone check their Zoom ID to be sure it contains your first and last name accurately so we're able to call on you appropriately and also so we do get all names accurately recorded in the record. If you need to update your name, click on the three dots in the window with your picture to bring up the rename option. When it is time to take up an item, we will need a moment to bring the appropriate attendees into the main meeting room and make sure they can see and hear the committee, and we can see and hear them as well. Participants will need to turn on their camera and unmute their microphone. If any member of the public wishes to comment on a specific item, please use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen during the item. You will be brought into the main meeting room at the appropriate time and asked to state your name and affiliation for the record. If you wish to speak on a specific item, please send a request through the chat feature telling us which item you wish to speak to so we can make sure to call on you during the appropriate time. Or you can send your comments through the chat feature and we'll read those aloud. Please make sure we have your full name and affiliation and which item, number, and name. There's also a time designated for general public comment at the end of the meeting. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and after the meeting ends, the archived audio and video will be available via the Commission's website. Because we are in person, a roll call vote is no longer necessary on every item, so we'll be using the all in favor say aye and all opposed say no format. If needed, we can do a roll call. Do committee members have any questions about these protocols or on voting today? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to item 2. Item 2 is the approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda for the March 2023 meeting? And please remember to unmute your microphone when speaking.
So moved.
So moved by Kevin Taylor. Is there a second? Second by Member Morrison. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Can we do that for that one like that? We have to do it officially. Okay, great. Let's see, item 3 now. Item 3 is the approval of the minutes for the prior meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the January 2023 meeting? It would be appropriate for any member not in attendance at that meeting to abstain.
I have a comment.
Sure. Member Forbes.
I know this seems picky, but on page 7, I noticed instead of Chakowski, the member is referred to as Katrina.
Okay.
In the it's in Point Loma Nazarene.
Thank you.
Yeah, page 7, item 16. After discussion, it was moved and seconded Palatayo and Katrine.
All right, thank you. Any other corrections? All right, with those corrections, there a motion to approve the minutes. Member Forbes?
I move we approve the minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second by Member Hallis. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Item 4 is the co-chair and members report. Do any members have anything you wish to report? Yes, Member Taylor.
Make just a sort of a general comment for staff and everyone to consider. As a representative of IHEs and teacher preparation programs, some of the changes coming through on I looked at and did sort of a little analysis of the special education TPEs and the change. There's sort of the universal TPE elements, and there's 45. I counted them up. And what happened with the SPED revision was, and in this example I'm looking at is for mild moderate, there was sort of they just added on a whole bunch of things to be looked at, and so it goes up from 45 to 61, which is a lot of things for candidates to demonstrate, and for IHEs to ensure that they've been taught and that we've observed them. And you never want something to be totally high stakes, right? So you need to observe it more than once, give people multiple opportunities to demonstrate that they've achieved the criteria. So it's really hard. It's really challenging for IHEs to cover all of this and to provide candidates the opportunity to demonstrate their achievement. Now, we did do, I had a staff member work with me, and they did sort of a crosswalk, and there are things that you can demonstrate as you're ticking off one of those universal requirements. You can tick off some of those special ed ones, and it brings it down a little bit, but it is an increase. It is an increase in things that need to be taught, assessed, demonstrated, and there's, as we introduce more of these, we're just making it more challenging to train teachers at a time when we need more teachers. And we're all looking for barriers to the preparation of teachers that can be removed or reduced. These go to quality. Quality is important, and I argue vehemently with some of the folks locally when it feels like they're just trying to get warm bodies into the classroom. I'm like, no, we need well-qualified teachers in the classroom. Don't you dare get people that are not well prepared and try and put them in the classroom. So it's a happy medium here. This is not a complaint. This is not in any way a criticism. It's an observation to this body from my perspective as someone working in an IHE and teacher preparation. I know that I haven't done this analysis for, and I'm still trying to wrap my brain around the new literacy TPE. But my first look is, holy wow, there's a lot of things in that TPE that we're going to have to teach and assess. And so I have staff looking at that now because I don't want my institution to be late to the party in terms of making sure that we can teach and assess all the elements of that TPE. We are getting out in front of this, but from my ill-informed perspective of that one, because I haven't done the analysis yet, it looks like it's a lot of work. So something to be aware of. We are making it increasingly hard, increasingly challenging to get these teachers through. Now, again, not a criticism, just a comment. Yes, we are training fabulous teachers and increasing quality. I'll sign up for every day of the week and twice on Sundays. It's really important to turn out people who can endure in the profession and be good teachers for their career. That's not an easy thing to do, and it should be hard to get people through. But something to be aware of at a time when the state desperately needs teachers. We need to make sure that the IHEs, this is going to put the cost up, presumably for privates, if it extends the period of training. And SPED, it feels like we're certainly expanding. We're lengthening the time of our program to cover all of these things. So it's getting more expensive. So for the state institutions, it gets harder to deliver that program because there's not a straight line between the students writing their tuition check and what ends up in our budget. It gets filtered through a lot of bureaucracy, and boy, that's hard to do. And I don't know the private side of things, but I know that it's hard. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Taylor. Yeah, yes, sorry.
Just to not to belabor, but continue the conversations. It's regardless of, I work on the actual district side and the county office. We have a preparation program, and we too have kind of been taken aback by the increase of things that candidates are going to need to demonstrate and we're going to need to prepare them for. And for somebody who has worked in the HR world for a large district in Santa Rosa, it is hard, and there is that balance that we need to be aware of. And again, Dr. Taylor, I agree with you. We don't want to shortchange the process and the training that's required to produce quality educators. But the fact that, we have to go through this, and there just needs to be a balance. There needs to be a collaboration and effort and understanding of the work that needs to be done in preparation programs and the realities facing the state of California and districts all over the state, and some consideration of how do we make this work effectively. And seeing candidates go through an intern program that we have is even more challenging because they're actually working, many hours a week and stressing about their assessments and coursework and everything else. And, and this is true in education as an institution. Again, I'll get off my soapbox in a second. We never look at how do we make things more efficient and how do we take things off the plates of people in the education world. It's oftentimes that things are just layered upon a plate that's already full, spilling all over the floor, getting on my pants, on my shoes. People are slipping in the hallway. So I would just really encourage all of us that are working in these areas, whether it's the CTC, the CDE, all of the people that are coming up with these additional requirements, to kind of take a 30,000 look at the impact it has. And I don't think it is going to make filling classroom vacancies easier at all. It's going to be more complicated.
Member Forbes and then Member Taylor.
Did you want to respond? Okay. Well, I appreciate Member Taylor and Member Lee raising the issue of what candidates are facing once they're in the program, but I thought I would report on getting candidates into the program at all, because we're in the middle of admissions right now. It's admission season, I think, in most of our IHEs. And we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago of the UC education deans and directors of teacher education, and we all were observing a decline in applications. Right? We have the capacity to admit more students, but we're just not getting the applications. And I don't know if that's true in the CSUs or in the private and independents as well, but it certainly seemed, especially at the multiple subjects level, that, they were noticing, a pretty sharp drop in some cases. So that will eventually, in the public institutions, affect staffing and the ability to offer these programs that are more time intensive and labor faculty intensive as well. So anyway, it's a growing concern to me as well to get students in the first place. And we've noticed more people taking a gap year perhaps. And so there's a little bit of hope that we've noticed some coming back that we expected to enroll last year, and now they are actually returning from gap year. But we've also had a lot larger number of people leaving the program in the middle, and particularly in the interns, right? A lot more attrition. So that's my IHE view.
Thank you, Member Forbes. Member Taylor.
Thank you, Member Forbes. I've been wringing my hands over fluctuating application numbers for a number of years, trying to figure out why. And I haven't managed to divine it yet. They go up and down. And just when I think it's going to be horrible, they look like they're bouncing back. And then when I get really excited, they look horrible. So hopefully they will come back. The teaching profession is a very noble one, and good people want to go into it all the time. So I have some level of confidence that they will want to come, but we do need to make the processes efficient and as streamlined as possible. We need stringent guidelines to make sure they are well trained. And people dropping out partway through, if they drop out because they figure out it's not for them, I always celebrate that, because I don't want good people getting into bad situations. And if you're not well trained and you're not well prepared, it can be a bad situation. One challenge that I've noticed, and it may just be anecdotal because it's just at my institution, but for the first time in my 8 years as a director in the School of Ed, we had 2 people struggle to get their certificate of clearance this year, not because of anything in their history. It's just because one of them applied in December and his case wasn't going to be reviewed until May, is what he was told, which was concerning to me, because that's a long period of review. And he was even considering not applying for his credential, because it's like, whoa, wait a minute. We're supposed to be doing everything you can to get these people into these programs. So I made an inquiry. I don't know if my inquiry made a difference, but his certificate of clearance is coming through now, and he's going to be able to get his observation hours in, and he is going to go into our credential program. So I'm super excited by that, particularly because it's a male into the MSTEP program, and we want to get those male teachers in elementary schools. But just an observation, and I like I said, just anecdotal, but something to think about.
Thank you. And one of the items coming up on the agenda is going to be looking at the literacy standards and do TBE, so we'll get a chance to see that. Ms. Sullivan.
Yeah, I just wanted to actually thank Member Taylor for bringing up the certificate of clearance topic. It's something that kind of came before us just prior to the CCAC conference last year, actually, and we were talking about, do we need to have a precondition, or do we need to add something that requires programs to get candidates applying for those certificates of clearance upon enrollment? Because if there is anything that requires additional review, there are some timelines that we can do nothing about. So if they need review by the Committee of Credentials, they have regular meeting dates as you do. They also have a pretty good caseload. Some things can be approved and moved on by staff, but if it does require their approval, it has to go to them, and then it also has to go to the commission for their approval. So it has to go to 2 meetings. So just really want to, in the end, we decided, adding anything, in the end, what we decided, I think, about the certificates of clearance was just to continue to sort of verbally encourage programs to, because many of them do have as a policy in their own programs that as soon as a candidate starts coursework, they get that CFC moving in case it's going to take a while, because depending on the issues maybe that have to go before the Committee of Credentials, it could take a year. So getting those folks applying for those COCs quickly is good policy.
And as Aaron said, some of that is not even on the committee. It is because of the courts getting documentation, getting rap sheets, all of that kind of stuff is external to this building. So a lot of that is dependent on other agencies.
Yeah, and our colleagues in the Division of Professional Practices have indicated that the court systems are really overloaded, and some of them in certain areas of the state are backlogged. So it can be a difficult thing, and we certainly don't want to lose candidates over it at all.
Absolutely, and thank you for that context, because we don't see that complexity from our perspective. We're trying hard to get kids into programs, and they can't get past a hurdle. When you don't see that complexity, it can be challenging. So I certainly will explain that complexity to our students and faculty and staff, and because we don't want students to get into a credential and then not get their certificate of clearance. Wherever possible, we're actually, this is an undergrad. He is, 9 months away from starting his credential. And December of the autumn, before he gets into his credential, he's applying for a certificate of clearance. And we're talking about now making that even, sooner and putting on our website, a year before you apply for the credential program, you should be applying for your certificate of clearance to make sure that we don't run into these issues, because we don't want this to become a barrier.
If I may, yeah, thank you. And that's sort of to belabor, but maybe I'd like to frame it and tackle it from a different angle. And one of the things that IHEs get at times plagued with is responding to LEA needs for employment, right? And we're sort of caught in that bind of making sure a credential gets recommended, whether it's an intern one or a preliminary and otherwise. And I think maybe just wanting to be slightly futuristic, if we can think of a way to create a system, maybe it's system to system cross-systemic, where the moment someone finishes their classes, there's sort of something we can do to be slightly more expeditious, to get credentialing on the records for a lot of folks. At times we get LEAs, and it's a pain point for us to try to turn something around so quickly, because the vacancy has been there for so long and we're trying to fill it and so forth. So I'm not proposing a solution, but maybe a point of conversation or something to think about for the future on how we can all work as entities in this, and I call it the system of credentialing, right? And work together to figure out maybe how we can get folks with their licenses a lot sooner than later, or perhaps be a little bit preemptive. I don't know what the answer would be, but I am thinking about the employment piece, and I'm also being sensitive to candidates who are near completion and are waiting for that credential to pop up so that they can take on the job and to follow, of course, a compliance measure there as well.
Thank you. Member Crescia.
Yeah, just to kind of talk about that a little bit, because in the credentialing world, what we try to do as, credential analysts is make sure that candidates are being very proactive, like during that last semester, getting all of that paperwork in. So as soon as that degree posts, the credential analyst can recommend them. And right after that, it's fairly quick. The CTC is pretty responsive and quick in getting those processed. So, those types of things inside the credential analyst world and in that, area, just making sure that you are being very proactive and, contacting candidates constantly. And then also, checking in with the ones that don't respond right away, checking in with them. Like we try to check after about a month or so after your degree conferral and say, hey, we've noticed you have not applied for your recommendation. What's going on? That kind of thing. Because a lot of them just, I'm not going to use it right now, So that happens.
Thank you. Any further discussion? I appreciate the conversation going back and forth. It's the beginning, not an end of a discussion, definitely. All right, seeing them, we'll move on. Just one comment I'd like to make before we move on to staff reports is, as we do engage in our discussions here, especially if when we bring in institutions, we have discussions with them. Sometimes our conversations will go longer with some than others. And we seem to notice that occurs when you're very interested in a program and you want to find out more about it, which is great. But I think given our time concerns, we want to be sure we focus directly on the issue at hand. And then maybe if you have something you'd like to follow up with the institution later, you can do so, maybe during a break, exchange emails, whatever the case might be. And then just follow up accordingly. We certainly want you to be able to have those conversations, but also consider what time we have here. So that's just as we're moving forward, something to think about. All right, we're on to item 5, which is staff reports. Ms. Hickey, please begin.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you. And I just emailed our director of certification to ask her what the average time is now for online recommendations. And it's still 10 days unless the DPP review is necessary. So that's a pretty good turnaround. Just wanted to let you guys all know. We keep track of those timeframes because we have a statutory limit of 50 days that we're supposed to turn the credential recommendations around. So thank you.
To be clear, those are business days. As somebody who used to work in certification, those are business days. So if there's holidays or things like that in between, it can affect that.
Yeah. It is. And I know when we start to get, there are periods of time, obviously when the IHEs and LEAs are recommending a lot of in May and June, we see a lot come through. There's busy periods and they really do a good job of, everybody on board. We're all going to work weekends and get this done. And so they reallocate staff during those high periods. So that's nice to hear. So I just wanted to talk about a few things this morning. We have done a ton of work around the PK3 credential in order to get it up and running. We talked about that a lot at the last COA meeting and what is in that credential. So since we've met, we've had lots of webinars and to try to get the word out about the various aspects of the PK3 credential. It's all on our websites. There's a PK3 webpage on the CTC webpage. That we've had a webinar on general overview of the PK3 credential. We had one on answering questions that came from the field. We had one on the literacy standard for PK3. We had one on the math standard for PK3. We had one on the DEI standard that is new to all of our standards, and we're hoping to get it into all of the other standards in this coming year. And then we had one on initial program review to talk through what kinds of documentation we needed. I do need to commend our IPR staff, Miranda Gutierrez, Poonam Betty, and Rosemary Wren for really getting all the documentation up and ready to go so that programs can then apply. So we've now opened the door to proposals. And as we said last time, we can't actually approve them or bring them before you until the regs have passed. So we're working on both of those again. We have, I think, 16 letters of intent for a PK3 credential. And we have one in the door at the moment with the documentation. Santa Clara County Office of Ed is the first to submit. And then we expect about, I think there were like 9 coming through the door in March and April. So we'll be looking forward to those. And Aaron will talk a little bit about our review process for that. So a lot of work has gone into PK3 in the last couple of months. And meanwhile, we are in the public comment period for the regulations on that. That closes March 23rd, 27th, I believe. We have several packages. I think the 27th. And depending on what kind of public comment we get will dictate what happens next in the regulatory process. So that's where we are. I don't know, David, did you want to add anything more on that topic?
No, I think you covered it very well.
Okay, great. We're talking about the literacy standard today, SB 488, and what was required there. So we wanted to set aside some time there because it's going to be important for you. These PK3 credentials and any other new credentials coming through or programs coming through the pipeline must be aligned to the new law. So while existing programs have till 2024 to get all aligned, they get to, have a transition period where they have to go through the faculty senates and do what they need to do to change their coursework. The existing or the brand new programs coming through the door will be aligned to the literacy standard. So we'll be looking at that literacy standard for any new programs that come your way. I just wanted to mention the subject matter regulations. That's the one that closes. So that is in the hands of the Office of Administrative Law, and that we should know by March 23rd whether or not those standard or that regulation gets approved. And that has actually been David's bailiwick. So David, do you want to just review real quick what is in those regs for this time?
So the big thing in those regulations was identifying additional majors that can qualify just on their face as meeting subject matter competence requirement. Mm-hmm. So we know that when majors by themselves can meet that saves programs and candidates a lot of time and worry. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we should know about those in a couple of weeks. I'm excited about that. And the bilingual regs are at the end of the public comment period. They have one more week, and then we'll be able to submit those to the Office of Administrative Law. So lots of work on the regulations. One more set of regs, the cost recovery. So I think we haven't had to deal with cost recovery and annual accreditation fees for a while because of COVID, but we are starting to once again charge. We just charged for annual accreditation fees last year. And the regs for the cost recovery, which are everything outside of the regular accreditation cycle. So anything about a revisit, new programs, anything like that has a special charge. And the regs were really outdated because they were tied to the number of standards for that credential area, which of course we know all those standards have been restructured in different numbers in terms of how many they have. So we've had to rewrite those standards or those regulations. And we are, the commission has approved those, and we are now about to start the public comment period soon. We don't have a date on that yet. So just bringing those back up to speed and what we need to do there. And then I was just going to mention, actually, I'm going to turn it over to, I think, Kara, who is on the line with us. Do you have Kara? Okay, great. Kara is going to mention the grants.
Good morning, Committee on Accreditation. It's nice to be with you virtually here today. I did want to make one announcement because I'm looking at the time, and so maybe I'll just make it quick, but we are going to do something that we said we weren't going to do. And that is we are opening a second round of the Integrated Undergraduate Teacher Preparation Program planning grants and implementation and expansion grants. The team did an initial review of the funds requested for round one, and we realized that we think we're going to have money left over. So we wanted to give any IHEs another opportunity to submit an application in the event that they missed a deadline or they were kind of toying with the idea but hadn't committed, and now there's an opportunity to commit. It is a quick turnaround. The applications will be due April 7th. And for those who have already applied, we will have the announcement of awards about 3 weeks before the second round of applications are due. So in the event an institution isn't awarded in round one, they will have an opportunity to update their application and apply again. So that's big news. We've been putting it out in the PSD news, and we just wanted to make sure in this time and space we give this announcement. So teacher residency RFAs are open. School counselor RFA for capacity, computer science, and either tomorrow or next week we will re-release round 3 of the classified grant employees. So I thank you for your time this morning. I'll pass it back to Cheryl.
And I'm going to pass it to Erin.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you again. I'll do my best to be quick because I know that David DeGear, our division director, would also like to give you some updates. As we do this time of year, we have our foot in about 3 different color cohorts right now. So we are wrapping up site visits for Indigo cohort. The timing is such that in the spring, things get really, really busy, really heavy. So a lot of site visits occurring right now, pretty much on a weekly basis. Your next couple of COA meetings are likely to be really, really dense, really heavy, probably 2 days, both of them, unless something changes. So just to FYI on that one. For the 2023-24 institutions, so those institutions in the blue cohort that will be having their site visits next academic year, program review feedback for all of them that was submitted in the fall, that's now gone out to all of the institutions, so that's great. Their common standards submissions were due on February 28th. All of them came in except for 2. One asked for an extension and the other one were the consultant assigned to them for their site visit, and I are working very closely with them to get that in. Common standards review sessions then, of course, are well underway. The first one was held last week, and we've got a lot of them planned coming up. And I want to take the opportunity to thank Sarah Solari Colombini, who is sitting at the table with us this morning, for really taking the lead on that this year, planning all of that, doing all of the training and calibration and getting those moving. So that's fantastic. And we're very grateful to have her working on that. For the green cohort, this is exciting. So they are the institutions that are going to have their site visits in 24-25. I cannot stop, I guess, shouting from the rooftops that once we get green cohort through this process, we will have finally ushered all 7 color cohorts through this new process. When we first switched to all of this, green had sort of 1 foot in the old process and 1 foot in the new. And in fact, I believe Kara Mendoza was at an institution at the time at a green cohort, and apparently they had a saying in the field that was, "It's not easy being green." So I'm hoping that it will be much easier for them moving forward. But those folks have their preconditions due on March 31st, because of course it's year 4 for them, and then they'll start the whole year 5 cycle next year with program review submissions in the fall. So really looking forward to working with the green cohort. COA election of new member or selection of new members. That is going to be an item at the commission meeting in April. So if you have friends that would like to apply but haven't, please encourage them to get their applications. Oh, it's closed.
It's closed.
Darn. Okay. Sorry.
Do the interviews at the April commission meeting.
Yep.
We haven't notified anybody about anything yet.
Sorry.
We're just looking at it.
Apologies. I was on a site visit when that timeline closed, and for me it's still the end of February somehow. So looking forward to that, and I believe that is all that I have for updates. David.
So because this one is so time sensitive, I'm actually going to reiterate one that Kara shared, and that's the integrated undergraduate grants. And the reason it's time sensitive is because $20 million was allocated in this grant program. And this is the, I think, only grant program that we have for which educator preparation programs can directly apply themselves. So there's $20 million in the program. We must award it all by June 30th or the money goes away. One of the things that our grant staff noticed is that some campuses only submitted one application. And we just want to clarify that campuses can submit separate applications for each credential program for which they either want to create a new program, integrated undergraduate program, or one that they want to expand or implement. Another thing I want to focus on is PK3 credential programs. This is the only grant program we have that can help support the development of a PK3 program. So if you are considering it, if you are in the middle of it, please consider applying for a capacity grant, which will provide you some resources to work with your faculty, work with your TK-12 partners to figure out what is the best preparation program for your new PK3 teachers. And especially as these literacy standards are now going to be required for this program, this is the first one, as Cheryl said, there's a lot of work involved with those. It's not that we wanted to dump a whole lot on preparation programs, but there's a lot that was specifically required under SB 488. And so we want to make sure that teachers are coming out knowing how to teach effective reading instruction. So strongly encourage programs to consider submitting, especially capacity grants, so that you've got some funding to help you put together either new programs or there's the grants to either expand or implement. The other update I want to give you is that there have been a number of bills introduced regarding educator preparation. It seems like many of them are in flux, so we don't want to give you an update now on something that may completely change in a couple of weeks. So it's been good in that staff members from legislative offices have been contacting us for our assistance in helping them try to figure out the best way to implement some of their ideas. And we will come back to you probably in May with a full report of the bills that are going to make it through committee. And that's all I have.
I'd like to jump back in. I'm sorry. I know we're trying to rush, but I really want to take a minute to just, again, fly the flag for PK3 because we really have been working hard to get those moving through. So Cheryl kind of mentioned, we have 16 letters of intent. We've already received, we've received one submission and we're expecting another 8. We will be having a 2-day review session here in Sacramento on April 13th and 14th to review the programs that come in. So if it's all 9, great, we'll do 9. If it's less than that, that's fine. We have gotten 20 individuals who have agreed to participate in this. Some of them are new to the system because we don't have a cadre of ECE experts. So we have 10 individuals with multiple subject expertise and 10 individuals with early childhood expertise of all of the people I've contacted that are available for the April 13-14. So we will pair at least one MS reviewer and at least one ECE reviewer for each review. Obviously, with a total of 10 duos, if we have all 9 programs, it'll be sort of a one-to-one. If we have less than that, we'll increase the size of those groups so that everybody can participate. And we have 9 staff, including Cheryl and myself and Renee Marshall, our ECE administrator, who will be there as well to support the team. So really looking forward to that. The caveat for all of that, or not caveat, the additional piece of information is the new literacy standard. So it's standard 7 for the PK3 credentials. We don't have a cadre, again, of people with deep literacy experience yet. So we've done some recruiting for that as well. And that literacy standard for the PK3 credentials will be reviewed separately on another date, hopefully also in person. So they will, I've got, I think, 7 or 9 of those individuals that we'll bring together, and they're just going to look at the responses to the literacy standard for PK3. But in the future, we are already kind of spinning our wheels about how do we get the BIR members trained so that because we can't send an individual literacy person on every site visit, an individual, so we need to beef up the training for those folks. So we're constantly thinking about that as well.
I'd like to add
so
one.
In a way, these
Sorry,
literacy. Oh, that's okay. I was just going to say, in a way, the PK3 is sort of they're the first out of the gate for literacy. So we're hoping to learn a lot about what we should ask for in the future, or what the reviewers need to see, or so we're treating it as a learning opportunity for us as well, and figuring out if we need to tweak the process going forward. Go ahead, Kara. I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, Cheryl. I just wanted to piggyback on David, just to make it clear that for the PK3, the only integrated grant program allowable right now is for planning grants, not for implementation expansion for PK3, only for planning. So I just want to make that very clear. Thank you.
And Kara, if you're still there, shout out to you. And David, thank you for bringing this forward to us, Mr. DeGear. As far as the grants, I was in a meeting of arts leaders a week or so ago from the state representing various constituents, and somebody brought up the grants. And they referenced the CTC, which I thought was wonderful. So the word is getting out. So we talked a little bit about that, and I just encourage everybody to be part of the PSD News, because every information every Friday is there. So the word is getting out, just so you know. So hopefully you get some applicants for that. Yeah, Member Morrison.
Hi. We move on from the reports. I have a question about the site visits. I know we expect them now to be virtual, and I was just wondering, is that going to be the norm going forward? Was that an emergency regulation, and do we have to go back to in-person visits, or what?
Yeah, that's a great question. And staff and institutions are asking us that on a regular basis. Statute doesn't say anything about whether site visits have to be virtual or in person. We did pivot to virtual during COVID because we had to. We weren't allowed to be around each other. We learned a lot from doing those virtual visits. We are not convinced unanimously that they are the best way to do visits. They work really, really well for some institutions. And then other institutions say this was impossible. We couldn't get anybody to show up. Everybody has Zoom fatigue. And that's everything. That's everywhere from a giant institution to a small LEA. There are people in both buckets. So what we have decided to do for next year, and not all of the institutions have had their year out phone calls yet. So friends in the field, if you're hearing this for the first time, don't panic. The visits in the fall will still be virtual because it's a little too late for us to pivot whole teams, as well as get all the contracts in place and everything that we have to do for in-person. If there are any institutions in the fall that have specifically requested an in-person visit, we'll go ahead and do that. We did that this year in the spring. And in fact, I did the first in-person site visit at the end of February. And then we have 2 more this spring. We are planning to go back to in-person visits next spring. But we are still working with institutions to kind of talk about that. There's a lot involved in it. And Cheryl is planning to hold some I don't know what to call them, sessions with staff
Mhm.
to kind of talk about what worked and what didn't, and what from virtual visits can be carried over to in-person visits. And then we were hoping to also maybe ask some of our colleagues in the field to share that with us as well, as we kind of think about what's the best way to do it moving forward.
Exactly. So the thought is that starting in January of 2024, asking the consultants especially to really think about what can we change about in-person site visits? How can we do a hybrid site visit? How can, what are the good things that we've learned? What are things that we need to not ever do again? Those kinds of things. So we're going to hold a couple of brainstorming sessions in the next month or so, so that we get some ideas about moving forward. I think, we do so much upfront now. And it really has made the site visit itself way less stressful on everybody, because we have, one-on-one conversations with the program coordinators, 1 to 2 weeks out. We've changed a lot about the process that I think that we can keep thinking about, being creative and still getting the information we need.
Great, thank you. And just one more note, I probably should have done this during chair reports. Prop 28, which you're probably all familiar with, was how it impacts the arts. And so in speaking to those who are involved and stakeholders, everybody's anxious and excited, yet holding their breath, waiting to see what's going to happen, how the money actually is going to be divided. So there are a lot of conversations going on among school districts and arts leaders as far as how that will actually be implemented. So it's exciting, and we're hoping it's going to pan out in a very positive way. So any updates we'll be able to bring to you all. If I hear of anything, I'm sure David and others might hear as well. So we'll keep you updated on that. Okay, looking at item 6 now. Item 6, the program approval recommendations. There are no programs requesting approval for new programs at this time. Short and sweet. Item 7, it's a report of program status changes. This is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 includes items for action by the COA, which include requests to withdraw, requests to reactivate inactive programs, and or requests to add a new content area to an existing program. Part 2 provides information on programs that have transitioned to revised program standards and programs that have elected to change to inactive status. These items are for notification only and require no action by the COA. Part 1, sections A, B, and C. Section A, program withdrawals. Section A is for action, and there are 3 program sponsors withdrawing a total of 4 programs: California State University, Los Angeles, Education Specialist, Physical and Health Impairments with Intern, effective June 1st, 2023. Tulare County Office of Education, Education Specialist, Added Authorization Autism Spectrum Disorder, effective March 9, 2023. And Education Specialist, Added Authorization Early Childhood Special Education, effective March 9th, 2023. Ventura County Office of Education, Preliminary Education Specialist, Language and Academic Development Intern, effective March 9th, 2023. This section is for action. Are there any recusals? One recusal, Member Cervantes. All right, is there a motion from a committee member? Member Lee.
I forgot I have to now say the entire motion correctly, don't I? That's my test if I'm in the right amount of caffeine or not. So I move to approve the report of item, I'm sorry.
Withdrawal?
Withdrawal, yes, withdrawal programs. Thank you.
Okay, yep, so moved. Is there a second? Second by Member Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you. Section B, programs requesting reactivation. There are no programs requesting reactivation at this time. Section C, adding a new content area. There is 1 program sponsor adding a preliminary single subject in theater. Joining us today to answer any questions about the proposed program from Fresno State are institutional representatives, Dr. Imelda Basurto, Department Chair, Single Subject Teacher, Credential Program Coordinator, Professor of Reading, Literacy, and Dr. Nicola Olson, Assistant Professor in Theater Education and Arts Integration. And they are looking to propose a preliminary single subject theater effective March 9th in 2023. And we do have the representatives with us.
Cal State Fresno, we're just trying to get you up on the screen. Aha.
There we go. There we go. And they're back.
They're there. All right.
Great. Can you hear us? Are we
Yes.
connected? Okay, great. Thank you so much. Does the committee have any questions for the representatives from Fresno State? Member Taylor.
Not really a question, but just a quick comment. Thank you for bringing this forward. Desperately needed.
Agreed. Any other questions or comments? Okay, this section isn't for action. Any recusals? Seeing none, is there a motion? Member Forbes.
I move we accept the addition of a theater credential for California State University, Fresno.
Thank you. So moved. Second by Member Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Congratulations and good luck with this. It's well needed, very much needed within the state. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Absolutely. And good luck with it. Part D, Part 2, sections D and E are for notification purposes only and no action is required. Section D are for programs transitioning. And again, these items are listed for notification purposes only. We have National University Pupil Personnel Services, School Counseling and School Psychology effective March 9th, 2023.
And that now means 100% of the PPS credentials programs have all transitioned to the new standards.
Bravo. Pause for applause. That's great. Section E, programs moving to inactive status. We have one program sponsor moving 4 programs to inactive status. This item is for information only and no action is required. The items are in preparation for the closure of Holy Names University later this spring. So Holy Names University, preliminary education specialist, mild to moderate support needs with intern effective March 9th, 2023. Preliminary multiple subject with intern effective March 9th, 2023. And preliminary single subject with intern effective March 9th, 2023. Specialist teaching, bilingual authorization in Spanish effective March 9th, 2023. That brings us to item 8. Item 8 is the initial program approval for new program sponsors. There are no new program sponsors seeking program approval at this time. Item 9 is a discussion of institutions not in compliance with accreditation timelines. And at this time, there are no late documents to report. Moving on to item 10. Do we have these representatives available for us in item 10? Okay, thank you. It's the report of the accreditation team to Santa Monica-Malibu Unified School District. Consultant Gay Roby will introduce the item. And joining her this morning is team lead Pat Marisich, institutional representatives Dr. Mark Kelly, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, and Tristan Gartrell, Program Director, Teacher Induction Program. Does anyone need to recuse himself? All right, seeing none. Ms. Roby, will you please begin? Do we have Gay? Okay. Is it raining in Santa Monica? Just checking. No, not, okay, good. Yeah. Oh, right, never does, right? Except this year, right? There we go. All right, Ms. Roby, ready whenever you are.
Thank you very much. Good morning, committee members. It's a pleasure to join you for the first site visit report of today's agenda items. The site visit for Santa Monica-Malibu Unified School District occurred January the 20th through the 23rd of this year via an online format. The Santa Monica-Malibu School District unites 2 cities' school districts that are actually about 20 miles distant from each other, but are connected through the Pacific Coast Highway or Highway 1. The district currently offers one credentialing program, a teacher induction program, which is small. It typically has 20 to 25 candidates annually, and that represents 2 years, so about 12 per year. for their teacher induction program. The site visit team was a 3-member team, consisted of a team lead, a common standards reviewer, and a program level reviewer. And they interviewed 65 people from varying constituency groups. The review was held according to all of the commission's protocols. There were no extending circumstances. And I would like to introduce our team lead, Pat Marisich, to present the site visit team's report. Pat, you're on mute. We cannot hear you.
Might be muted.
Sorry about that. All right, I'll begin again. I just wanted to say it's such a pleasure to be here today and to come and give you this report about the Santa Monica-Malibu School District Induction Program. First of all, I'd like to say we had a wonderful virtual visit with the Santa Monica-Malibu USD Induction Program in late January. Everyone from the interim superintendent, Mark Kelly, their district administrators, IHE partners, principals, mentors, and beginning teachers were all so cordial to us and so embracing of this team and the accreditation process. And so we wanted to thank you all for that. I also want to give a special thank you to the induction coordinator, Tristan Gartrell, for having everything available for us and so well organized. You really made our visit very, very easy to complete. Thank you. We appreciated all your hard work that went into that. And I also wanted to thank the other team members who are not here today, but were key in conducting the review, and that's Malika Bryant and Jamie Beza, and of course, Gay from the commission. Thank you for all your hard work and dedication to this process. So while we were on our virtual site visit, we had the opportunity to interview multiple constituents who spoke to us at length about the program. From these interviews, one common theme emerged, and that is that this program provides very strong multiple supports to its candidates and their mentors throughout the entire induction process, which leads to a high degree of satisfaction with the program. For example, there is very strong mentor support in this program. The team found through interviews with the candidates that their mentors actually spent much more time with them than the standard required. And we thought this was very interesting because the mentors kind of reported very modestly that they spent the required amount of time with them. But when we talked to the candidates, they wanted to tell us, oh no, they spend a lot more time with us than 1 hour a week. And their relationship is really what I would call multidimensional. Not only do they work together to support the candidates' ILP and just-in-time issues that arise, but they also work with their candidates on district initiatives such as equity, diversity, and inclusion. Candidates told us that their relationship with their mentors just went from strength to strength over the 2 years and beyond. Completers and mentors who were once in the program reported that their induction mentors continued on as their informal mentors long after they completed the program. And we thought this was one of the great strengths of the program. And secondly, there's very strong coordinator support. And the coordinator meets with candidates in a systematic and ongoing schedule throughout the year to ensure that candidates are progressing in the program and that candidates meet what they call their milestones. She forms a supportive relationship with each candidate in the program. Lastly, there's strong district support for the program, and candidates and mentors both engage in high quality professional development offered by the district, and both initially beginning in the induction program with the orientation that the candidates and mentors attend together, and then throughout the year. All that we interviewed spoke of the positive impact of the professional development on their practice. So this theme of strong support for candidates and mentors was validated through the surveys and assessments collected by the induction program throughout the year. The team was really impressed by all the state constituents who recognized and valued the importance of the district's induction program and teachers' development. And candidates truly valued the strong net of support surrounding them. As one candidate remarked, everyone here is clearly working as a team to support me and my growth. Again, it was such a pleasure to visit the Santa Monica-Malibu induction program. The team found all standards met, and the recommendation is for accreditation.
Thank you, Ms. Maricich. We now invite institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you it's not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you had about the visit itself.
Good morning, committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of SMM-USD Induction Program. I'm Tristan Gartrell. I just first wanted to take a moment to thank the site visit team for their support and their feedback during this process. Gabe Roby, wow, I can't thank you enough. You have provided great counsel, such a positive energy, encouragement. And as this was my first time doing a process such as this, it is somewhat intimidating. And those regular meetings that we had really just offered both guidance and reassurance that I was on the right track and that the work we are doing in our program is valued. So I really can't thank you enough for that. And Pat, and I know Malika and Jamie aren't here. Thank you so much for pouring through pages upon links of documentation. It's nice to know that that was reviewed so thoroughly and you asked thoughtful questions that really work to affirm our program's alignment with the state standards for excellence. So thank you so much for your time on that. Joining me here today is our unit head of our organization, Dr. Mark Kelly. He's our interim superintendent for Santa Monica-Malibu USD. He's a mentor of mine, and I just would like to give him a moment to share his thoughts as well.
So thank you, Tristan, and good morning, everyone. I want to thank you also for the opportunity to speak. I want to thank the visiting team for their leadership and guidance during the accreditation process. As a district, we appreciate the opportunity to reflect on our strengths and areas of growth. We also appreciate the input of the visiting team members as they provide a different lens and give us input into aspects of our program that we might not have seen. I also want to thank the amazing Tristan Gartrell. As you hear, she's a terrific leader and really passionate about the induction program and more so caring for the participants and the mentors as they engage in this process. And so I want to thank you, Tristan, for your leadership of our induction program and thank the committee and the visiting team for hearing us today. I'll turn it back over to Tristan.
Yeah, and I wanted to just talk a little bit about the process. What was really most impactful about this process was the opportunity to connect more deeply with the processes and habits of mind that we encourage for all of our candidates. Our program continuously strives to make for a more meaningful learning experience for candidates, and we do this by collaborating with stakeholders to collect and analyze data. We select focus areas based on this data to address, and we make a plan for programmatic shifts. Then we implement those shifts and reflect on that data and that we collect again and just ensure that that those shifts are working and we apply those learnings. So this is the same plan, teach, reflect, apply cycle that we ask of candidates, and the accreditation process mirrors our program exit interview. So at the end of the process in our program, they complete an exit interview. And that's what I feel like this site visit was for us, where we were asked to really communicate our work towards the standards and methods for ensuring program fidelity and growth processes. Working with the review team was similar to the reflective conversations that we encourage between mentors and candidates. They asked probing and clarifying questions that really ultimately helped me reflect on and communicate the purpose for each of our systems and our program elements. We have always prided ourselves in offering a very supportive and personalized program. Being a small district and small program allows us to know each candidate deeply and make sure we have meaningful learning experience. And the accreditation cycle really gave us an opportunity to match our systems to that personalized support and examine how the work we are doing is making an impact on the profession well beyond their years in induction. So in conclusion of the visit, the team remarked, and Pat mentioned today about how the stakeholder groups interviewed mentioned our district and program commitment to incorporating diversity, equity, and inclusion, that lens within our instructional approach. And this is something that we know is essential to meeting the needs and honoring the lived experiences of our diverse student population. And we will maintain that commitment to equity and our continuous improvement, and to ensuring that our candidates have the support they need to develop as reflective practitioners who positively impact students and families they encounter. So I just want to say thank you again to everyone involved in this process, and we welcome any questions or comments you may have.
Great, thank you so much. You mentioned the support that the team had given you, which is wonderful to hear. We like to know that that it's being effective, but in a very supportive way. And I'd like to say about Gay, Gay was a person who invited me. We took on my very first site visit was with Gay, and my first time leading a site visit with Gay, and she is one of the most supportive, caring individuals I've ever met. She knows her stuff inside and out, and she's just very level-headed and very calm and very rational, but also very loving and caring. So you had a great one in this one. They're all good. I have a special like for Gay, sorry. If you didn't know. All right, so this is an opportunity for the committee members to offer any comments or questions you wish. All right, seeing none, this is an action item. Is there a motion? Member Taylor.
I move we accept the recommendation of accreditation for Santa Monica-Malibu Unified School District Teacher Induction Program.
Well stated. So moved. Is there a second? Second by Member Balatayo. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Kelly. Thank you, Ms. Gartrell, Ms. Marisic, and Ms. Ruby. Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 11, it's the report of the accreditation team to Cal Poly State University, Pomona. Consultant Dr. Sarah Solari Colombini will introduce the item. And joining her today is team lead Dr. Michael Kotar and institutional representatives Dr. Hen Jilly Elowy, interim dean. Did I say that correctly? Are they there?
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you. Dr. Joanne von Boxtel, interim associate dean, and Dr. Amy Gemino, multiple subject coordinator. Does anyone need to recuse himself? All right, seeing none, Ms. Colombini, will you please begin?
Certainly, thank you. So good morning. The report I'm introducing today is for the accreditation visit to Cal Poly Pomona. A site visit was held February 5th through the 8th, just 4 weeks ago. Cal Poly Pomona offers 8 educator preparation programs. We had a team of 9 reviewers to review the common standards and the program standards for each program offered. The team members were diligent in their work prior to the site visit and during the site visit to gather evidence via interviews, artifacts posted on the website, and data to come to a recommendation of accreditation with stipulations. Now, as you know, when there's a recommendation of accreditation with stipulations, it's really important to be really clear with the stipulations, okay? Because the institution needs to know exactly what piece of each individual standard there needs to be, they need to come in alignment with. And so, and the standards are dense. They're pretty packed with different pieces of information. And so you will, you probably have noticed in the write-up that the stipulations are pretty precise because the institution certainly is meeting a majority of the standards. These are just individual pieces of the standard where there was not alignment. So with that, before I turn this over to the team lead, Dr. Kotar, I want to just thank the institution for their attention to detail in preparing for the site visit. And I also really want to thank the accreditation team, the site visit team members, because as you all know, they're volunteers. And we here at the commission rely heavily on our volunteers to ensure that these California standards are upheld. So Dr. Kotar, I know you're there, so thank you.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here to report on the virtual site visit to Cal Poly State University, Pomona. First, I want to thank Sarah Colombini for her excellent guidance and of the review process and all her support through both the pre-visit and the site visit. I want to extend sincere thanks to Interim Dean Ann Gilly Elway, Interim Dean Joanne Van Boxtel, and Accreditation Coordinator Amy Gemino, and of course to all the faculty and staff who helped us with the site visit, welcomed us, and served along with us as colleagues in investigating their programs. I need to recognize the team members for their professionalism and commitment to maintaining quality programs through the Commission's process. The team members were Lori Kirchie-Reed of CSU Long Beach, Michael Verdi of CSU San Bernardino, Lori Call of Point Loma Nazarene University, Aaron Siebert from San Jose State University, Allison Black from the University of California at San Diego, Maurice Balat from San Francisco State University, Eugenia Mora Flores from the University of Southern California, and Ann DeLay from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. During the visit, the team quickly became a cohesive group, was very knowledgeable of the common and program standards, and worked with care and efficiency through interviews, discussions, and report writing. Cal Poly Pomona opened in 1938 as an extended campus of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and they split away in 1966. They currently serve about 27,000 students. In fall of 2022, the College of Education and Integrative Studies enrollment was 1,746 students. There were 420 credential candidates across those 8 programs and 2 added authorizations. And educator preparation work is accomplished by 35 tenure-track faculty and 66 adjunct faculty, plus a whole group of very capable staff. The College of Education and Integrative Studies has overall strong programs that serve the educator preparation needs of their candidates. They make use of assessment data. They collect feedback from candidates, program completers, other educational partners, local districts. The college engages in a continuous improvement process. They practice that improves the effectiveness of programs and operations. College is engaged with partners in the service region and other programs such as teacher residency and internship programs. The team made a thorough review of institutional and program information and materials prior to and during the visit. We conducted 449 interviews with administrators, faculty, staff, candidates, program completers, and local school personnel. Information gathered from these sources was consistent and led to the team making a recommendation of accreditation with stipulations with a high degree of confidence. I can review some of the standards, which you've probably already seen in our report, but we'll go through them anyhow. Program standards for the preliminary multiple and single subject credential program were met with the exception of program standard 3, which was met with concerns. Program standards for the preliminary education specialist mild to moderate support needs and extensive support needs credential were met with the exception of program standard 3, which was met with concerns. All program standards for preliminary administrative services credential program were met. All program standards for the agricultural instruction specialist credential program were met. All program standards for the bilingual authorization program were met with the exception of program standards 1 and 2, which were met with concerns. And all program standards were met with all common standards were met with the exception of common standards 1 and 2, which were met with concerns. So as Sarah mentioned, we crafted some very specific stipulations to assist the institution in addressing those standards that are met with concerns. And at this point, I'd like to run through those stipulations. So there are 7 of them. One was that the institution provide evidence that all educator programs are receiving the appropriate resources so that programs are run effectively and candidates are receiving appropriate support. Number 2, that the institution provide evidence that it actively involves faculty, instructional personnel, and relevant stakeholders in the organization, coordination, and decision-making for all educator preparation programs. That the institution provide evidence that district employed supervisors are qualified and have a thorough understanding of California public schools, including content knowledge of current context, including state adopted P12 content standards, frameworks, and accountability systems, knowledge of diversity in society, and demonstration of effective professional practices. Number 4, that the institution provide evidence that candidates are in placements that support candidates in their requirement to take and pass the teaching performance assessment. Number 5, that the institution provide evidence that district employed supervisors have demonstrated exemplary teaching practices as determined by the employer and the preparation program that meet the needs of candidates in the program. Number 6, that the institution provide evidence that adapted physical education candidates have experiences and or interactions with the full range of service delivery system and reflect the diversity of grades or ages, federal disability categories, and the continuum of special education services, as well as skills in aquatics. And number 7, that the institution provide evidence that there is appropriate support for the bilingual authorization candidates upon entry into the program and throughout the duration of the program. That includes guidance and coaching on formative assessment processes. So at this point, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Dr. Boxtel.
Thank you, everyone. I want to give a special thanks to our consultant, Sarah Colombini, for her support. She's been just very insightful in getting us prepared for this process. I also want to thank Mike Qatar and his leadership of the site team visit. Also extend my thanks on behalf of our interim dean, Jilly Elowy, and our accreditation committee coordinator, Dr. Amy Gemino, on behalf of all of our colleagues at Cal Poly that have been working very hard in preparation for our site visit. Overall, I speak for all of us here today in recognizing the important work of accreditation and also in our commitment to the continuous improvement process. We appreciate the feedback and the specificity listed within the stipulations. Much of the stipulation work had already begun in some regards with various positions that have been created or in process of being filled. And we can speak to questions that the COA may have on specific stipulations. We have also convened a committee and begun the debriefing process related to our stipulations. We will also we have a subcommittee work planned for each stipulation that is noted, and we have a total of 5 subcommittees formed for this process. So one of the committees may fold into the other as we move forward with our work, but we are very confident that with each of the stipulations named that we are going to make good progress in resolving them. Some of them I believe will be resolved quite quickly with new personnel that are coming on board, especially with stipulations related to resources. And of course, in conversation in our committee work and our cross collaboration with our stakeholders within Cal Poly and outside of our institution, our strong district and community partners as well. So if there are any other comments that my colleagues on today would like to, please jump in. Otherwise,
thank you, Joanne. I think you said it all. And I just want to extend my deepest gratitude really for the team, for the feedback as we digest, look, plan, improve, and hopefully address everything in a timely manner. Thank you so much.
I just want to briefly say my appreciation as well. And Sarah, you were so accommodating, many meetings, and just really appreciate the time and care that you took to be kind of helping us along the process and being very transparent with where the team was. We were really pleased, at least at the mid-visit report. I feel like it was really helpful and felt like we had everything in order, which is really nice. And Mike as well, I really want to take time to especially thank you and to all the team members for their time. Thank you.
Thank you, and we appreciate hearing your comments in response to the report itself. For Dr. Colombini and Dr. Kotar, I had a question on the overall recommendations.
Yes.
On page 4, item 3. Just wondering, is that in reference to multiple subject or single subject?
That's multiple subjects. So I'd like to actually provide more clarification too around the stipulations.
Sure.
There's a little more specificity behind each of these stipulations that actually we left with the institution. We wanted to keep the language in standard language for stipulations, but like for instance with stipulation 1, and Dr. Van Boxtel kind of referred to this around resources, appropriate resources, and I can give a specific example that all of your institutions are probably grappling with is the subject matter competence piece is widely expanded. You have now all of these routes that your candidates have an opportunity to meet subject matter competence, and yet the institution has still the same staffing to work around these issues. And it was apparent that there was a bit of a struggle, and the candidates were, I don't want to say suffering, that's not the right word, but struggling to what they felt it wasn't a timely fashion, right? Yet on our end, right, we're trying to also meet the needs, you know, and so I think you can understand that struggle. And I think you read some of this in the report. So that was a piece where resources may need to be adjusted at every institution, but this is one that came out, right, of the site visit. This is, remember, when you have a site visit, you're measuring that institution at that moment in time. And so this is an outcome, right? Also, the second one, as far as the idea that that you involve all relevant stakeholders. You know, they had excellent partnerships outside of the institution. This was a matter of involving their inner departments, so like the math, the science, and having them involved in the committees to make decisions. So one very specific, that's what needs to be rectified, right? Third, the idea that the single subject, okay, this is very specific. Candidates who were either in music placements or science placements, especially the science placements, didn't find that their district employed supervisors were using NGSS. And this was pretty prevalent. And that also is, you know, and it is a struggle that I'm sure many of your institutions may be encountering as well. The implementation of NGSS, while it was adopted many, many years ago, some districts still are not implementing. And so this is a struggle, right? And so these are some of the things that I will obviously work with Cal Poly Pomona, but this is the level of specificity that I have that I'll work with Cal Poly Pomona on that we didn't necessarily call out, put NGSS into these stipulations. But just to kind of give you an idea, they adapted PE. It was around that you weren't using the pool, and the pool is part of those specific standards. So if that gives you some more context, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Colombini. It is helpful. Thank you. Committee members, any comments or questions? Member Taylor.
Just want to raise something for public awareness. I'm at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I did not recuse myself because, as it's very clearly spelled out in the report, the two Cal Poly institutions, back then it was two, now it's three, were separated in the early 60s, and there's no conflict of interest here because we're as different as CSU Fresno and CSU Bakersfield. So no conflict of interest. I would like to, while I have the mic, just thank staff and the review committee for writing what is clearly a very complex report. What a challenge. And kudos to the faculty and staff at Cal Poly Pomona for their industry and efforts in what appears to have been a turbulent transitionary period with a lot of positions going unfilled and being in interim. I know firsthand the impact that can have. So well done, everybody.
Thank you, Member Taylor. Any other committee member? Member Hillis.
I was just curious about the stipulation around the TPA. And part of the question that I had was, assuming that the completers that were part of the interviews would have gone through pandemic placements, I'm curious if that had an impact on their perception of support for the TPA completion, because I know that, we've heard numbers about how large it was of completers in our programs not finishing the TPA. And so I'm just curious if this could be a moment in time observation of something that's going on.
Do you want to speak to that, Mike, first, and then I can follow up?
Sure, I can. I'll try to offer some comment that I felt was coming from the program review team. I certainly agree that that could have been part of the issue, but what seemed to be coming from completers was that the content of science in those classrooms was not allowing them to meet the current California adopted California NGSS standards. The other issue rose from music, and that was a similar kind of a situation of being put in a placement that was probably too broad, in the elementary grades, and not having an opportunity to focus the TPA work in a more music central environment. And we heard that from a few of the music teachers. So that's kind of what's drawing the concern and then the stipulation.
Thank you. Any other comment or question by committee member? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. Is there a motion? Member Cretia.
I move that we accept the recommendation for accreditation with stipulations for California State Polytechnic University, Pomona.
Thank you. So moved. Is there a second? Second by member, I'm sorry, but before we go on, Co-Chair Martinez's question.
I'm sorry, I should have asked this earlier. So I noticed it's recommendation for accreditation with stipulations. Do we have any kind of follow-up like a reporting?
Well, with stipulations, you automatically have it follow up
Okay,
within a
that's what I
year.
wasn't
Yes.
clear.
Mhm.
So it could be up to a year before we hear back.
Yeah, so they have a year to do that unless you want to stipulate something
Okay.
different.
Just a question. I'm okay with the way it is.
Okay, so we have a motion, and is there a second? Second by member Hillis. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and thank you very much for all the work behind the scenes to prepare this report. So thank you and good luck moving forward.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And just another shout out, Dr. Colombini, you had referenced those who are volunteering behind the scenes. It's just an enormous task, as we all know. We see this every time, and it's serving and it's unselfish. I'm just always impressed every time we get together. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let's take 5. What do you think? 5 minutes? Okay, we'll come back in 5.
Yeah, that's right. Was it? Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Not that I would.
But you can imagine.
But I can imagine. And that's happened to me before when I.
Oh, really? I wonder if it's something the season.
I think
Yeah. Um, 4:45. Yeah. I mean, I usually get up at 5. So I have to get up at 4:15. About a half hour to get out the door. 7 today. That's what was great. So usually I have to go to LAX and I do the same day, and then I have to get up at 3:30. Yeah, because I think the earliest flight from LAX is like 6:30 or something, and yeah. But then I was a little bit nervous because they were doing road construction on the 101, and I got down to probably a little bit past Woodland Hills, getting the 405, and we were backed up. And there was a couple times I was completely stopped. And I was like, I mean, I gave myself enough time, but I didn't give myself a lot of it. So I think I rolled in at like 10 to 6 and we boarded at 6:30. Never had this happen. I go up, I've got TSA pre-approval. So I go up to the thing, I hand him my license. He kind of takes a second look at the thing. He turns the screen towards me and he says, so it's saying your email. And he said, now, if you want to claim that, you can. He said, if not, you've got to go back to, so I said, I don't. identify like that, so then I had to go back to the front desk. No, it wasn't my license. It was on the bookie. That's unique though. Yeah. Yeah. Was it feeling real? Retirement? Yeah. So. Hey, do you guys have an intern program? So we had a situation that I've never experienced before. We had a special ed intern got attacked twice by a student in the classroom. I mean, it's a behavior disorder classroom. She wanted it. She's a great student. But after the second one, she was like, can't go back. So she talked to the special ed department, and they said, if you resign, we're going to file the educator misconduct or something like that. I know. So, but they have the right to do that. Yeah. So I mean, we contacted the super and just said, come on. I think they were. They were. They were. Because we have. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, there's something. Wow. Oh, that's, yeah. Right. Right. And special ed is such a high need. There's no way they're going to go through it. Yeah. Well, one of our yeah, the superintendent was really, because of course superintendent didn't even know any of this. So he was really apologetic and he said, you know, I don't want this to ruin our relationship with you guys. And that's all. And especially when all the faculty vouch for this student as being like one of our very best, and you know, very challenging. Right. And she won. Intensive. Yes. No, no.
All right, if we can take our seats, please, and we'll get started. Great. Do we have everybody? All right. Thank you so much. We are coming back. It is item 12. Item 12 is a report of the accreditation team to High Tech High. Consultant Miranda Gutierrez will introduce the item. And joining her today is team lead Adora Fisher and institutional representative Sarah Barnes, director of the intern and induction programs, and Matt Sheelan, program manager of induction and intern programs. Does anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Ms. Gutierrez, will you please begin?
Sure, thanks. And then before I get started, we just have two additions from the High Tech High team joining. It's Cecilia Navarez and Nicole Williams, and they're part of the operations, enrollment, and credentialing team. So they're also with us.
All right, thank you.
The High Tech High site visit took place on February 6th through 8th, and I had the pleasure of working with High Tech High over the last year as they prepared for the site visit and enjoyed learning about their programs. I just wanted to thank the High Tech High team for being so responsive to the team leading up to the visit and during the visit. And before I turn it over to team lead Adora Fisher, I just want to thank her for leading the team through a thorough review and through deliberations. And with that, I will turn it over to her to give you the team's report.
Thank you, Miranda. I'd like to say that the High Tech High site visit was very successful. And I would like to attribute a lot of that success to Miranda Gutierrez, the representative from the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. Miranda was extremely supportive and helped us, the team, in every way to ensure that we reviewed High Tech High's program thoroughly and effectively and efficiently. And I have to say that I appreciate all of her support. In addition to Miranda, I'd also like to thank the High Tech High visiting accreditation team on site. Janie Griswold, Chief Academic Officer Sarah Barnes, the Director of High Tech High Teacher Center, Matt Sheelan, Induction and Intern Program Manager, Nicole Allen, Operations Manager. This team was extremely supportive as well. Whenever we needed anything, they made sure that everything was there and taken care of. They did an outstanding job of providing the site visit team with information and ensuring that all of our questions were answered and that we had access to all of the people that we needed to interview. I'd also like to thank their program leadership, Chief Executive Officer Caleb Rashad, and Chief Academic Officer, again, Jeannie Griswold. Their leadership was tremendous in the site visit. Again, on the team, accreditation team visiting, I'd like to acknowledge the Common Standards team, Cynthia Amos, retired Los Angeles Unified School District, Karen Rock, Santa Clara Unified School District, the program reviewers, Kelly Daly, Sonoma County Office of Education, Christina Askins, King County Office of Education, Wanda Paluba, Rialto Unified School District. This team was tremendous. We worked together well, led by Miranda Gutierrez from CTC. And I would say that our deliberation was effective and efficient, but very thorough. That being said, I would like to say that the team unanimously, after much deliberation and after 156 interviews and review of all relevant information, would like to recommend that the preconditions have all been found to be met. Program standards, based on our review, have all been found to be met. Common standards have also all been found to be met. Although the team found that all preconditions and program standards and common standards for all programs offered by High Tech High are met, the team does recommend accreditation with a 7th-year report based on 2 of the common standards. The team recommends a 7th-year report that includes evidence that A clearly defined process is in place to identify and support candidates who need additional assistance to meet competencies based on Common Standard 2. We also recommend that district employed supervisors of all intern programs have a minimum of 10 hours of initial orientation based on Common Standard 3. Based on these recommendations, based on the evidence that we reviewed, unanimously, the team recommends accreditation with a 7th year report. I'd like to now open it up for any comments or questions that you might have for me by the commission.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. We now first invite the representatives of High Tech High to offer any comment about the visit itself. Remember, it's not a time to dispute the report, but again, any thoughts you had about the visit itself.
Thank you so much. We just want to thank Adora very much for coming with her team. It's a really big ask, we know, to come and give of your personal time to be a reviewer and a peer in this process. And without that peer review process, it is really hard, I think, as a program to identify, maybe your blind spots and to really make a roadmap for how to improve. And I feel like we really have that roadmap now. It was a really validating process. Yes, a bit grueling through the beginning, but that's where we had Miranda, who was a big support to us as we prepared for the visit. So this is a sincere thank you to her as well. But big part of that visit was really validating some of the work that we put in to make sure our programs were up to standard, but also a chance to celebrate the work that we've done, to really hear from the participants themselves and do some of that empathy work. So that was really important to our process. And I think what our biggest takeaway is we're really left with a lot to celebrate and a lot to think about when we move forward, set the roadmap forward. And we're really excited. We've already started working on a multi-tiered systems of support to support our candidates so that they're not just getting support from our really small team, but we're really creating this wraparound support service for them. And so we've started meetings about that. So I'm excited about that progress, and we're excited to put that in our 7th year report. And then we're also starting to look at how we can develop mentor modules so that we can better onboard our mentors and also our district site supervisors, our fieldwork supervisors. So we can do that in a more systematic fashion. So I think that that's going to sort of alleviate those things that we need to work on, but it also gives us a chance to think as a team how we want to develop. And we couldn't have gotten to that place without the visiting team and without the support of Miranda. So all in all, I think it went really well. We're really proud that we came through it, and we're really grateful for the opportunity to share our programs with the world. I think a lot of programs can relate to this. It can feel really insular sometimes. And so the opportunity to get that feedback and not be so insular was very much appreciated. And I'd love to ask to Matt, Cecilia, Nicole, if you have anything else that you'd like to add to that. I'm really grateful to our team. So the folks that are on this call, because you're all tremendous professionals, and it's just been a joy to do this work with you as well.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes. Appreciate the comments. Anybody from High Tech High wish to offer any thoughts?
I just want to say, echo what Sarah said as well. Just a huge thank you to Adora, Miranda, and the whole team. The level of detail, the professionalism, and the way you all conducted the interviews with our students, with our staff, was really tremendous. And it was a great learning experience for all of us. We're grateful we don't have to do it for another few years, but we learned a lot, and we're excited to continue to grow our program with your support in the years ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. You don't have one next month to do? Any comments or questions from committee members? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. To have a motion. Member Cervantes.
Motion to accept the recommendation of accreditation with a 7th year report for High Tech High.
Thank you. So moved. Is there a second? Second by Member Hallis. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you again for the work.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you also, Ms. Fisher and Ms. Gutierrez. Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, moving on to item 13. It's the report of the accreditation team to Stockton Unified School District. Consultant Hart Boyd will introduce the item. He is joined by team lead Amanda Baird and institutional representatives Lori Goldstein, manager of teacher induction program, Kate Rockstad, new teacher support program specialist, and Maisha Davis, new teacher support program specialist. Does anyone need to recuse himself? Seeing none, Mr. Boyd, please begin.
Thank you. Stockton Unified School District site visit took place from February 6th through the 7th, 2022. The site visit was conducted virtually rather than in person, and a total of 320 interviews were completed with various constituencies, and the site visit proceeded in accordance with all normal accreditation protocols. Everyone at Stockton USD was great to work with, especially the program leadership team, who were extremely thorough and thoughtful in their preparation for the visit. Joining us today via technology and representing Stockton USD is the leadership team consisting of Lori Goldstein, Teacher Induction Program Manager, and Kate Rockstad and Maisha Davis, new Teacher Support Program Specialists. Also joining us today is the Site Visits Team Lead, Amanda Baird, Coordinator of the Preliminary and Clear Administrative Services Programs at the Orange County Department of Education. Amanda was fantastic to work with and was a very knowledgeable and thoughtful leader throughout the process. I would also like to thank each of the team members of our site visit team for contributing their time and expertise to this visit. The team worked diligently in preparation for the visit and worked extremely hard during the visit. I'll now stop and turn it over to Amanda, who will present the findings and the team's accreditation recommendation. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'd like to specifically thank Hart for just making this a very easy process. Everyone from the institution to this team, I know, takes a lot of time out of what is regularly going on behind the scenes. And so it's really nice to have a consultant that is there to support on every single end. And I also want to thank Sarah and Aaron and the entire organization team behind the scenes who sets all of these processes up, because I was on the Common Standards review, so I feel like I really got to know the institution many months before the visit occurred. And then thank you to the Stockton Unified team. I will say that from every stakeholder group that we interviewed, we left with the impression that it is very much a collaborative effort to support new teachers, to develop them to become reflective practitioners and have a positive impact on students. And with that, after a thorough review with the team and engaging in very detailed discussions, we found that all of the preconditions were met, all of the program standards were met, and all of the common standards were met. So based off of that information, we are recommending that Stockton Unified be recommended with full accreditation.
Thank you, Ms. Baird. We now invite the team from Stockton Unified School District, all the representatives, to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you it's not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather provide any thoughts that you may have regarding the visit.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for speaking to our program today. And of course, we want to extend tons of gratitude to Hart for being our fearless leader in the process in terms of the CTC end. He made things very positive and light throughout the process, because we all know it can be very anxiety provoking, but we had lots of laughs in the middle of all of that. And then of course, Amanda Baird, the team lead, who we were confident behind the scenes, guided Beth and Marcy, her team members, to the conclusions they drew in the report you have before you. And really, obviously, we're not going to debate any aspect of it, but I did want to highlight one quote that really stood out to us, because it is who we are and why we do what we do. And that came from our site administrators, who stated, when candidates complete induction, they have the full capacity to clear their credential and teach every student. And so that really hit home for us and reconfirmed, validated all the things that we do on behalf of our candidates. And of course, the heart of the program, our mentors, who provide that weekly support to our newest teachers in Stockton Unified. So we very much appreciate the team, the leadership of the team, and of course the CTC leadership as well. And we're happy to take the recommendation if the COA is comfortable granting that to us.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the institution wish to offer any comments? All right, seeing none, it's an opportunity now for members of the committee to offer any comments or have any questions. Co-Chair Martinez.
Oh, good morning, and just thanks to the whole, to Hart and to the BIR team, and also just congratulations to the Stockton induction leadership team. I just want to comment a couple of things. First of all, the number of interviews that you had is pretty amazing for the size of the program. It says a lot about folks' willingness and support of the program. Also, I wanted to comment because you're our neighbors and here in Northern California, and I know that your district has gone through some complex changes and there's been a lot of transitions. And so, Willie, what stood out to me is the induction program as kind of that place, that safe harbor, if you will, and nurturing place and shining star during times of change. And so congratulations to you.
Thank you. Member Cervantes.
No, yeah, just wanted to commend the entire group. I mean, and just looking at the number of program completers, you had 99 in 2021, 2022, and the number of candidates enrolled, 143, whereas a lot of programs are seeing sort of a decline, right? You are certainly responsive, being very responsive to the needs of your educators and anticipating that. I also see that you work with 6 IHEs, which I'm sure takes more than a smile, right? So kudos, job well done.
Thank you. Any other committee member? All right, seeing none, this is an action item. Do I have a motion? Member Forbes.
I move we accept the recommendation of accreditation for the Stockton Unified School District.
Thank you. Is there a second? Member Taylor. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Congratulations and thank you for joining us, representatives of Stockton Unified. Thank you, Ms. Baird and Mr. Boyd. All right, moving on to item 14. Item 14 is the actions taken to address stipulations from Sacramento City Unified School District. Consultant Tanabedi will introduce the item. Joining her this morning are institutional representatives Kelly Dunkley, induction coordinator, and Hillary Harrell, director of professional learning. Does anyone need to recuse himself? All right, seeing none. I thought we had one. Yeah. Co-Chair Martinez, a recusal. Anyone else?
Never mind. I'm looking for you on the screen. They're right there.
Right in front of you. I mean, in person. Wow, how novel. So Miss Betty, we join. I mean, you begin whenever you're ready. Sorry.
All right. Good morning, committee members. Item 14 presents the Sacramento City Unified School District's 4th quarterly report. Sac City Unified operates a teacher induction program, and they hosted a site visit back in October of 2021. The accreditation site visit report for that site visit was presented to the COA at its February 2022 meeting. At that meeting, the COA took action to grant an accreditation status of accreditation with major stipulations, including 9 stipulations that the district had to address. The site visit report is linked at the top of this item, as is the quarterly reports webpage where the 4 quarterly reports from Sacramento City are housed. And as a brief update, the 4th quarterly report was originally scheduled to be presented at the January COA meeting earlier this year, but given discussions with the Sac City team, it was determined that postponing the 4th quarterly report to this meeting would provide the district more time to address some of the stipulations more fully. So with that being said, staff is recommending that the COA take the following actions. 1, accept Sac City's 4th quarterly report. 2, remove stipulations 1, 2, 3, and 7. Number 3, change the accreditation status from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditation with stipulations. And 4, that the district be provided 6 months within which to address the remaining stipulations. You will see on page 2 of this item a chart that notes each stipulation and the recommended action. Before I turn the presentation over to the Sac City representatives that are here with us today, I want to take a moment to emphasize the work that has been accomplished over the past year. There are active efforts to de-silo the teacher induction program and to align it with initiatives that are occurring in the district. And in addition to that, there have been new processes put in place, new hires and whatnot, and there are other ideas and processes that are still in development. So this kind of just giving additional context in that regard. So with that, I will turn this presentation over to the Sac City team to briefly touch on the district's progress thus far and kind of keep a focus on the 4 stipulations that staff is recommending be retained.
Good morning. I'm Hillary Harrell, Director of Educator and Leadership Development in Sacramento City Unified, and I'm really happy to be here today to talk about the work we've done so far in our induction program and the work that we are currently doing and planning on doing in the days and years to come. So to reiterate what Ms. Betty talked about, there's been a lot of work done in terms of integrating our current induction program within our overall professional learning efforts in the district. And so that's part of why we agreed to have some extra time this winter and spring to really make sure that we are building our induction program within an overall coherent system. We do not want it to be separate. We do not want it to be siloed, because the ultimate goal of our program is to retain our teachers and to have them feel at the end of induction, what is next? What am I going to do next? And so that's our big work. So the areas in which we are currently focusing and we continue to focus will be on specifically looking at how we are measuring and supporting our support providers. You know, a lot of the work of an induction program is focusing on participating teachers and the work that they need to do. But a lot of what I think we need to do to make this a sustaining and relevant program is to make sure that our support providers are receiving the same level of effort on our part as well. So a big part of the report called out our need to talk about how we're monitoring and measuring our support providers. And so that is the work that Kelly and I have been beginning this winter, and we're continuing on. And so what you can look to see in the coming months is we are going to be developing what we're terming a support provider self-assessment. So we will begin piloting parts of that this spring, and then moving into next year, our support providers will be, this was formerly known as the support provider ILP. Now it'll be the support provider self-assessment. So they're going to be setting goals. From those goals and those areas that they self-identify as needing, they are going to be selecting professional learning. We're going to be crafting professional learning to meet their specific needs. In addition to the assessment, which will conclude at the end of the year, we also are adding 2 features to our program. One will be a specific admin feedback form about their support provider. I think this will be a helpful tool because it will pull admin in and make sure that they're engaging with the support providers on their school site. The other piece that we will be adding, we will ask participating teachers to actually name their support provider and their feedback at the end of the program so that we can start to track and monitor. The truth of the matter is that we in our position are not in a place to remove support providers. We really need to grow our support providers. We have an increasing need because we're going to have even more new teachers next year. We need to make sure that we are establishing a process where support providers understand it's a give and take, and that they have the tools they need to become very strong in what they do. The other area of focus for us will be really looking at the results that we are getting from our new ILP. And since we've gone through now 2 review cycles, we can really see the areas in which our participating teachers and our support providers need us to provide more time, more explanation. And so that has been a helpful tool, and that's been a piece of feedback that has added to our already existing feedback. So that is the work that we are doing in Sac City Unified.
Great. Thank you for the detailed comments. Appreciate it. Any other representative of SAC want to? Nothing. Okay. It's an opportunity for committee members to go ahead and ask any questions, offer any comments. Member Taylor.
This is clearly a complex one. I'd like to commend staff, Poonam, and the Sac City folks for fully embracing this process. We can't afford to lose good teachers, and having well-structured, supportive induction programs is critical. So thank you for fully embracing this process of increasing the quality and the rigor of your program.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Member Taylor. Anyone else have any comments or questions? I too would just like to, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Member Morrison.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a question about the stipulations 4, 5, and 6 to 1, where the recommendation is to maintain the stipulation. It's been a year now, and the recommendation is to maintain those stipulations. Is there evidence of progress in those areas? That why are the stipulations there? And 12 months, what progress has been made?
So that's a great clarification question. So for the 4 stipulations that staff is recommending be retained, there have been progress that's made. And one way to kind of think of this is that there are steps or kind of draft ideas or like beginning steps of certain processes in place, but they're not yet fully concrete enough to ensure that these stipulations are addressed fully, if that makes sense. So one great example is stipulation 5. So like Hillary was discussing, the ideas of looking more closely at how mentors are effective within this program. Those ideas are in formulation, and they're going to be beginning this spring, but they're not yet here. So removing that stipulation isn't, so that was why that stipulation in particular was, the recommendation was to maintain it. And if it's helpful, we can talk through the other stipulations, but that's kind of the broader sense. Yeah.
No, that's helpful. I mean, to clarify, you're saying that the procedures are in place. We just need to see them play out. That's what you said. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Morrison. Yeah, that's a very good clarification. So it's not that the institution is blowing it off, so to speak, but for doing quite the opposite, which we were certainly recognize and appreciate that. This is an action item. Is there a motion? Member Taylor.
I move that the committee accept the recommendation to transition from accreditation with major stipulations to accreditation with stipulations for the Sacramento City Unified School District.
Well stated. Is there a second? Second by Member Cervantes. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries unanimously. Absolutely. So again, thank you for joining us. Really do appreciate time from Sacramento City Unified School District. Thank you. And thank you also, Ms. Betty. Appreciate it. All right, we're moving on to item 15. At this point, I'm going to pass the gavel over to my co-chair, Martinez. Member Martinez.
Thank you, Co-Chair Frelly. Okay.
Comedy team or something we did. There you go. Or a law firm, right? Depends on the day.
Yeah. So item 15 is a report of the accreditation team to Ventura County Office of Education. Consultant Dr. Michelle Williams-George will introduce this item. Joining her today is team lead Connie Best and institutional representatives Lisa Solis-Brown, Associate Superintendent, Joyce Springer, Executive Director, Educator Support, Adrian Peralta, Director, Educator Support, and Donna Volmer, Director, Educational Support. Does anyone need to recuse? Member Hillis will recuse. Ms. Williams-George, will you begin, please?
Okay, thank you, and good morning. Item 15 includes the report and findings of the accreditation site visit conducted at Ventura County Office of Education. The accreditation site visit occurred from January 22nd to January 24th of this year, And due to the ongoing concerns regarding COVID-19, this site visit was conducted virtually and interviews were conducted via technology. The site visit team consisted of 6 reviewers and was led by our very capable team lead, Connie Best. The team reviewed 6 programs, a clear administrative services credential, a teacher induction program, an education specialist added authorization orthopedic impairment credential, and 3 designated subject programs, including adult education, career technical education, and a special subjects credential for ROTC. The site visit team was dedicated to ensuring that all evidence was thoroughly reviewed and was extremely thoughtful when deliberating on the standards findings. After a comprehensive review of evidence, including institutional documents, data from both institutional sources as well as the accreditation data dashboard, all of which were verified through interviews with a wide variety of constituents, the team collaboratively confirmed findings on each of the common and program standards and determined a recommendation of accreditation. Before I turn the presentation over to the team lead to speak more about the report as well as the site visit team's findings, I would like to note a few special features about this particular site visit. Because of the number of programs offered by Ventura County Office of Ed, this was a moderately large site visit, 6 programs, 6 reviewers, and yet it went swimmingly well. This is particularly significant because the institutional team, which organized and ran the site visit, was primarily comprised of staff who had been in their positions for less than 6 months. This includes the superintendent, credential analysts, several directors, and even the executive director of the credentialing programs. These folks hit the ground not running, but sprinting. The support the program receives from the County Office of Education was palpable, not only in terms of program design, but in the fact that the county hired the previous executive director as a program consultant to support the current new director throughout this year-long process. In turn, the fact that the previous executive director, who had moved out of state, willingly and enthusiastically took on this consulting role speaks to the supportive and collaborative nature of the Ventura County Office of Education. It is my pleasure to turn you over to Connie Best, our team lead, to share more about the site visit.
Thank you, Michelle. Good morning, Mr. Martinez and COA members. I have a couple things I would like to say. First and foremost, it was a pleasure to be here today to report, but more of a pleasure to really get to meet the team at Ventura County Office of Ed, specifically the Educator Support and Effectiveness Department, which is housed under the Professional Services branch. I do want to thank our program leadership that we worked with, the site visit team, and Michelle, our excellent CTC consultant. We were a 6-person team assisted by Michelle. I appreciate her support and facilitation of the preparation with the institution leading up to the visit, as well as during the visit. Our team members had thoroughly prepared and worked conscientiously throughout the visit. Their expertise with teacher preparation and the accreditation process made for fabulous collaboration throughout the review of such a large program. The site visit was completed in accordance with procedures approved by the Committee on Accreditation, and it was a wonderful virtual visit in January. The leadership and institutional stakeholders were interviewed via technology, as were the review of program documents leading up to and during the visit. So I do want to give just a couple highlights as we go through as well. As Michelle said, there are 6 credential preparation programs. They are housed in Educator Support and Effectiveness, led by the Executive Director, who's here with us today, and assistance from program coordinators and administrative assistants, and also here. In advance of the visit, leadership worked diligently to prepare for a smooth review. Their responsiveness to requests both prior to and during the visit enabled us to focus on confirming the documented processes with stakeholder experiences. They put together a virtual interview schedule that respected the teachers' and administrators' schedules. It was a pleasure to meet with and hear from their partner district leadership and site administrator, advisory members, IHE members, mentors, current candidates, and program completers. The team thoroughly reviewed all documents, the institution's website, learning management system, and conducted interviews with all stakeholder groups. Interviews were conducted over the Zoom platform with a few additional phone calls. We were impressed, along with what Michelle said about the dedication of previous staff members. We were also impressed with the dedication to the program by interviewees telecommuting in during their vacation from both Hawaii and Australia. At the conclusion of examining all evidence, the team unanimously found all common and program standards met, as you can see from the report. But I do want to highlight a couple things from the visit that really stood out. During the interview process, a common theme of a compassionate first-person customer service and collaboration emerged. Some stated there had been a renaissance of the county office, with so many new staff members bringing a new vision and passion. We consistently heard about a culture of collaboration and communication in addressing their guiding question of what's best for kids and our community. The entire institution appeared to function with a high level of cohesion and trust, as well as commitment to vision and mission led by their superintendent, in spite of so many new members. As Michelle said, some who had been with them for as little as 6 or 3 months in some cases. All completers, candidates, and mentors spoke positively of the program and their experience. As you saw in the report, repeatedly, we heard about the highly responsiveness of program leadership to support and address needs of participants and the districts. While their enrollment more than doubled in size for their clear administrative services, teacher induction, and added authorization for orthopedic impairments, their high level of communication and innovation to support those candidates continued. Through continuous improvement process, they collect multidimensional feedback and input to better meet the needs of their participants. The culture of collaboration is built on trust and constant formal and informal communication. Some talked about this as hallway conversations, as well as the more formal county-wide network meetings that happen. This collaboration, communication, and continuous feedback system has brought forth many modifications and new programs. A few to highlight are modifications to office hours and their learning management system, Canvas. They have a person dedicated to the creation and management of their Canvas platform. He receives content from the program coordinators and directors. To better meet the well-being needs of their teachers, they created an optional induction pathway called Educator Thriving. Due to the executive order COVID flexibilities, which many of us are familiar with, 2 additional personnel were hired to assist teachers to better meet the requirements of TPA and RECA. In their Clear Administrative Services program, they purposefully hired a lead mentor with charter school experience to support candidates in charter schools. A last example of collaboration goes beyond just their programs, meaning their credential programs. Their Bridge Authorization Program was identified as a standout example of how all branches of the organization and educational partners collaborate, end quote. Combining resources, both human and fiscal, they were able to impact change for over 500 education specialists, which we know how many students were impacted by that. Overwhelmingly, all stakeholders spoke positively about the program impact. Candidates consistently reported they saw an increase in their effectiveness as a result of the strong mentoring component of the program. Over 97% of completers indicated their mentor or support provider was helpful in setting and reaching professional learning goals. One administrator stated, "We are committed to being bridge builders. There is no doubt this program is meeting the needs of their educational community." Therefore, given the information of the report and these highlights, based on a thorough review of all institution and programmatic information and materials available prior to and during the accreditation site visit, including the interviews, the team unanimously and easily agreed on a recommendation of accreditation. Thank you, and I welcome any further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Best. We now invite institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you that this is not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather to provide any thoughts you had about the visit.
Thank you so much for having us. We are so appreciative of the work that you do and the support that you give to all of the efforts throughout the state. I would just like to thank Michelle, Connie, and their team. They were professional and positive throughout the entire site visit, but also in the many months leading up to it. As Michelle mentioned, I am very new in my role, and she was, or her support was above and beyond getting us to a place where we were ready to highlight our amazing programs. So thank you. We're very proud of the work we do, and we're glad we had a chance to show it to you.
Thank you. Other institutional representatives, any comments? Okay. And just I just want to again, we keep hearing today about the great support from from the system, from all those who volunteer, and also our consultants. And so just again say thank you. It is an effort of love, not money necessarily, right? So at this time we're going to open up for comments from committee members. I'd like to start off. Just one thing that stood out in the report. First of all, congratulations. Really excellent report, and I know how much work that is, especially for a program of your size. Is there a reason, I think it might be around vacation, about why there were so few candidates interviewed compared to the size of your program? Or to me, it looked small. And team lead maybe, or maybe the executive director, can you let us know why?
I believe we just broke them into candidate groups by their program. So maybe the numbers look smaller because they're disaggregated that way. But, also I would say that there's a lot of Zoom fatigue happening in the world right now. And so the candidates were one of our harder groups to motivate into those interviews. But, I do feel like we got a good representation of the different program offerings that we have. I would just say that participation in the virtual spaces was a little bit challenging.
Any other comments around that? Okay, how about questions from committee members? Comments? Okay, then seeing no comments, do we have a motion? Member Taylor?
I move that we accept the recommendation of accreditation for Ventura County Office of Education.
And a second? Member Cervantes? Okay, we'll go to a vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you all very much. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, we'll move on now to item 16 is the 7th year report from Sequoia Union High School District. And it looks like we're having representatives come on in. Consultant Christina Nahara will introduce this item. Joining her this morning are institutional representatives Victoria Dye, Sequoia Union High School District Director of Professional Development and Curriculum, Catherine Wachtler, TIPS Lead Teacher, and Sarah Stone, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. And does anybody need to recuse themselves? Okay, Ms. Nahara, will you begin, please?
Good morning, committee members. It's a pleasure to be here this morning with you and to introduce the 7th year report from Sequoia Union High School District. This report is a follow-up to the March 2022 accreditation visit to Sequoia and provides a detailed explanation about the actions that the program has taken to address the Common Standards 1 and Program Standards 4 and 6 met with concerns findings from the team. All 3 findings were related specifically for a need for an improved collaboration between Sequoia Union High School District and Ravenswood City School District. Ravenswood City students matriculate into Sequoia Union schools, and they support their novice teachers through the Sequoia Union induction program. I'd like to now welcome Victoria Dye from Sequoia Union and Sarah Stone from Ravenswood City to summarize their progress on meeting these concerns and to answer any questions that you may have.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, committee members, for allowing us to address you and to speak about improvements made in the areas of Common Standard 1, Program Standards 4 and 6. Feedback from our site visit team and from the Commission has allowed us to refine our practices and ensure a consistent level of quality of service for candidates in both of the two districts that make up our program. With respect to Common Standard 1, reviewers weren't able to ensure that that our unit actively involves Ravenswood faculty and instructional personnel and stakeholders in decision-making for our TIPS program. Following the accreditation visit, Ravenswood representatives participated in our advisory meetings, and an example of an outcome of our partner district's participation is that data surfaced that mentors required additional support, and that has resulted in more frequent professional development and support for Ravenswood mentors in the 22-23 school year. With respect to Program Standard 4, the site visit team determined that whilst mentors receive initial training, ongoing training, and support, mentors are not being systematically and equitably supported across both of the districts. So the reviewers didn't find evidence that Ravenswood mentors participate in goal setting, implementing, updating, and implementing updated mentoring instruments and reflecting on their practice. So immediately following the site visit and Committee on Accreditation meeting a year ago, we developed a more frequent meeting schedule between Ravenswood and Sequoia induction leadership, and the two lead teams address mentor training and support at monthly check-in meetings to ensure consistency. Also, Sequoia induction leadership and Ravenswood induction leadership jointly conducted an orientation for mentors at the beginning of the school year. Finally, with respect to Program Standard 6, the review team didn't find evidence that we regularly assess the quality of services provided by Ravenswood mentors to their candidates and using criteria, including feedback from candidates. So after the site visit, our leadership team developed a process to ensure that Ravenswood candidates use the ILP as the roadmap for the induction experience, and we regularly monitor the candidate ILPs from Ravenswood over the course of the year. We use a document tracking system, and then the Ravenswood leadership and I and the Sequoia leadership check in about candidate ILP progress monthly at our meetings. And so we believe that we fully met all common and program standards, and we're grateful for the clarity that completing a 7th-year report offered us.
Thank you. How about any comments from other institutional representatives? And just want to say thank you for that detailed report. It was great to hear the specifics about each of those items. So very helpful. How about any comments or questions from committee members? Okay, this is an action item. Do I have a motion to accept the 7th-year report from Sequoia? Member Bolatayo?
I move that we accept the 7th-year report from Sequoia Union High School District.
And a second? Member Forbes? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Congratulations and thank you. Thank you, Ms. Najarro, and all of our institutional representatives. We appreciate you being here. Okay, moving on. So it is, we had originally had lunch scheduled there. Do we have a? Okay, great. All right. Okay, so we are going to just adjust the agenda a little bit. We're going to move to item number 21, which is the update and discussion and progress in implementing SB 488 and commission adoption of new literacy standards and TPEs.
And I think, need to, do you need to be hooked up or are we? I'm not sure what the technology need is at the moment. Michelle, we're not on, yeah, it's not Zoom. It's, so we need it to be hooked up to the Polycom. Is that possible? So that they can see the slides.
Yes. Why don't we just take a 5-minute break so we
Okay,
can
great.
switch gears? Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I guess you can. And
Roxanne, can you hear me?
yes.
Great.
Heather, do you have the slides available? We want to try having you share the slides instead of me.
Yeah, give me one moment.
Okay. Okay, share your screen now, Heather.
All right, give me just 1 second. I'm getting my monitors set up.
I'm not sharing. I stopped it. I wonder if it's because I have the Polycom plugged in. Because if we're doing through Zoom, we're not supposed. Maybe. Is it because she has the Polycom plugged in?
All right, I have it shared now. Can you see it or no?
No, but let's.
No.
I unplugged the Polycom.
Just so you know, we can see it out here in the public.
Okay, so you can see it on Zoom, but not in the room.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Kara.
Okay.
It didn't work for Heather either. Sorry.
Oh, it seems like it would work for her. Did they make her a host? She's a host, right? Oh, maybe it's happening. No. It's different than the commission meeting, so I'm not really sure.
Because they set up.
That's why they always like have us let them know.
Great.
Heather, can you try sharing again, please? Oh, it's working on my screen, but it's not showing up here. Heather, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna, on that first title slide, mention who was involved with the literacy team.
Yes, we're just trying to get the PowerPoint up. For some reason, it's not cooperating.
Okay. Do you want me to stop sharing my screen?
Yeah, apparently, yes.
Okay.
We can do it without a PowerPoint. It's just prettier with one. I like your tie.
Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're just trying to get a little tech help. And if not, we could do it without the PowerPoint, but it's easier to see.
Vince is troubleshooting, just so you know, Heather.
It's just that we won't have it for anybody watching.
Can you click stop sharing on your end? He's trying to connect me through here. Oh, it's showing up.
Ah, looks, there we go. It looks promising.
Yeah. Okay, now if I can just make this go away. There.
That's a good question. Where do you get?
Can I exit out of Zoom? I think because I'm internal.
Does she leave Zoom, Vince? Do you know?
Can I leave Zoom?
Just minimize it.
Minimize. Oh. That doesn't want to. Here we go. All right.
All right.
I don't know how to get rid of that, but all right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Heather, are you still there?
I'm here.
All right. Okay. Are we good, everybody?
Okay, we're going to return, everyone.
Right.
Cheryl?
Thanks for your patience. Yes.
I
that
cannot
was your
see
lunch break, by the way.
the
So
screen.
Who's talking?
This is Kara. I apologize. So out
Oh.
here in the world, I can't see the slides. I don't know about anybody else.
oh, you know what? I wonder.
Not a
Vince, did you hear that?
Should I turn camera on here maybe?
Vince is here, coming to the rescue.
How about now? How about now?
And I've heard that people who are not a panelist in the public sector have the spinning wheel of death on instead of the actual slides.
Sarah, I don't
right.
know about you, but mine says on my screen, it says Polycom Real Presence Media Suite has started screen sharing, and that's what I see.
That's what mine says too.
Okay.
Mhm.
I wonder.
And I'm hearing from colleagues.
It's not that big.
They're seeing the same thing we are, Heather.
No, we could do it. We could probably do it without the PowerPoint. We'll cover the topics and then we can post the PowerPoint after, if that's okay with everybody.
Does that work for everyone?
Okay.
Let's go ahead and proceed that way.
Okay.
All right.
So we will post the PowerPoint so that everybody has access.
Then
to
maybe
it.
we can bring Heather back on the screen.
Yes. Can we get Heather back on the screen then?
Should I exit out of this totally?
That way I think the public can see it then too, right? We just want to make sure it's.
No, right now they can't see it. I don't.
That's right. I mean, we want to make sure everyone can see it or see our meeting.
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
Should I go ahead and exit out of the PowerPoint totally?
That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pretty PowerPoint, everybody.
It was really nice. I promise.
And it will be shared like with this item anyway,
Yes.
right? Okay. Everyone will have access to it as soon as possible.
Right. All right. Why don't we cover the topic and we'll
Okay.
make sure everybody has.
Let's go ahead and get started again then. So moving again to item 21 is the update and discussion on progress in implementing SB 488 and commission adoption of new literacy standards and TPEs. This item is being presented by consultants Roxanne Purdue and Heather Kennedy. Ms. Hickey, do you want to introduce this item before we go to Ms. Purdue and Ms. Kennedy?
Yes, all I was going to say is that like the PK3 session we had last time, we wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to really delve in as deeply as you'd like into SB 488 and the new standards. You know, they are significant and it's a big change for the field, I think, in terms of they're pretty comprehensive. We were really fortunate to have Nancy Brennelson, who was one of the founding writers on the ELA-ALD frameworks, to actually assist us on helping us develop. We had panel members and that kind of thing. So Roxanne and Heather, I don't think many of you have met Heather Kennedy. She's one of our newer consultants and is part of the performance assessment team. So she'll be working really closely with Amy Rising and her team on the development of the literacy performance assessment, whether that's embedded in the TPA or some other. Yes, thank you. Okay. And Kathy, are you on the performance assessment design team, which just started working, correct? Exactly.
Yes.
Excellent. So you have a
Hi,
resource here.
Kathy.
And Heather is fantastic.
Long time no see.
Yes.
All right, Roxanne, that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. So thank you all for joining me for an update on SB 488, and hopefully you'll get something out of this. We're going to do a brief overview, Heather and I, and very brief, and it's just meant to be an outline of basically the item that came with the report. And then we'll move on to your questions so that you have plenty of time for that. So before we get started on SB 488, one thing that you should know is that it was part of legislative year 2021-22. And the reason why that's important is that if you were to go look up this bill and you did SB 488, it's repeated on other bills. So if you're the type of person who likes to read the actual text of the bill, if you're that kind of person, then I had to, so I'm that kind of person. Then you need to make sure you put the legislative year in there that goes with it. Before we get started, I know Cheryl was starting to mention those involved
in this process. And we were a 3-person team, or we're down to a 2-person team now. But there was Nancy Bernolson, as Cheryl said, and she was our fearless leader and just so excellent in helping to develop and draft those standards for all the credentials. And this was like fast forward on development of standards. If you have remembered in the past, we usually do it for one credential, and it takes a long time to get through that process. And this we did in about a year, and it was basically every teaching credential we have for the most part, except for CT, some designated subjects one maybe. But it was fast, but it was a truly team effort here in at the commission. I do want to say that Deputy Director Amy Rising and Director of the Professional Services Division, David DeGear, were so actively involved in the process. And I think David probably could do this presentation instead of me. So maybe he'll be the 3rd person on our team now. He'll be our fearless leader. But also Administrator Cheryl Hickey, she's every step of the way. All of the PSD staff have been involved in the process. They've come to as many things as they have time for. Erin Sullivan, whenever she could, was involved in helping in the process. I do want to specifically thank William Hattrick, our special ed consultant, because as we move through the special ed piece, there's a lot in common when you go through the credentials. So if you're an institution with multiple credential programs, you're going to find that there's a lot in common across them, which will help with your planning. But each one is customized to that credential too. So there are some changes in between them. And with that, we had to focus on the low incidence areas of special education. And we had to work with some experts for that when we look at deaf and hard of hearing, visual impairments, and early childhood special education. And so William joined us on all of those and definitely was a resource for us. So moving on. It doesn't want to move on. There we go. Oh, we're not showing anymore anyway. But I don't have every slide memorized. So what we tried to do was, we're going to go through briefly an overview SB 48, some of the major components, but we tried to filter out those things that we thought were most important to the content of teacher preparation rather than the bill as a whole. So some of those items in the bill that worked its way into the standard across those credentials were evidence-based means of teaching foundational skills. That was key to the advocacy groups that were working with the Senate on SB 488. And so those foundational skills include print concepts, phonological awareness, phonics, word recognition, and fluency. But beyond that, we had several things that came out of our alignment with the ELA-ELD framework that was adopted by the State Board of Education. And that's why it was so great to have Nancy as one of our team members. So it includes tiered supports for pupils, including but not limited to those with reading difficulties, English learners, and those with exceptional needs. It included ongoing diagnostic techniques and early intervention, alignment with the State Board of Education ELA-ELD framework. The keyword there is alignment. So wait until I say the next keyword and we'll see why that's important. So it's alignment with that framework, but it's incorporation of the California Dyslexia Guidelines. And this was specifically pointed out to us that those were 2 different words with 2 different meanings. And so it was really imperative that we understood and articulated what it means to incorporate the California Dyslexia Guidelines. If you want to find the dyslexia guidelines or the framework, you can go to the CDE website and just put in the search engine because they have a pretty good one and it'll take you right there. If you want them for your future candidates, it's free download. Organized, systematic, explicit, direct foundational skills instruction, as we talked about, and practice and connected texts. Strong literature, language, comprehension component with balance of oral and written language. Integrated methods of teaching language arts, that's both for multiple subject and the ed specialist. And then some other features, a couple of other features of SB 48 is the certification of programs. And so rather than the normal process we go through when we transition, we'll have to have the program submit their full program for review on that standard and TPEs. And that will be in the 2024 year. I think probably July 1st, 2024 is maybe the date that we've settled on. And then we'll have to review and certify those programs before the start of the exam, which is July 1st, 2025. And or assessment, I should say, because it's no longer an exam, which is the other feature. It needs to have, the RECA goes away. And July 1st, 2025, we have a literacy performance assessment, and what that looks like, how it's integrated or not integrated, that's up to the design team, and they will lead us forward. So let's talk about the big picture. What should programs be thinking about as you start your planning? I would wish you could see this slide because it's in the framework and it's in chapter 2, page 53, for those of you who want to know more about what I'm describing, but it's what we call circles of implementation. And one thing to know about that framework I keep talking about is that it's based on standards. So there's a separate California ELD standards, English Language Development Standard. And then there's the California standards for ELA and literacy. It's important to know, as you're thinking about the standards and the framework, that it's reading, writing, listening, speaking, and language, and that it goes and is integrated through all disciplines. So as we think about reading instruction, we shouldn't just think about it as pre-K, yes, I said pre-K, all the way through 3rd grade, and suddenly they're done. We need to think about it all the way through 12th grade, because it's integrated across all subject areas, all disciplines. So when you're thinking about the themes that you find in the framework, remember I said we're aligned, it's more than foundational skills, and they're not taught in a line. It's integrated once again. So we have foundational skills, yes, but we also have effective expression, meaning making, language development, and content knowledge. So all of those themes that you find in the framework find their way into the standards as well. Standard 7 that you'll see in these credentials. And you're going to hear me say those again. We'll dive deeper. So with that, you need to have candidates who are motivating, engaging, respectful, intellectually challenging, and that they know how to integrate. And all with the goal of, as the circle tells us, having students, those K-12 students, be broadly literate. They are ready for college, career, and civic life, and they have the capacities of literate individual. Sorry, I have a little dry throat going on. So throughout the framework, we have integration as a theme, and I've been talking about it. We have the strands of language arts that go. When you're thinking about language arts, you're talking about reading, writing, speaking, listening, and language, as I said before, and you think about how that goes across the disciplines, how it's integrated within the disciplines, how English language arts and literacy are integrated throughout the discipline. Thank you. So then we have, won't swallow my words now. When we think about the disciplines of history, social studies, science, technical subjects, and we think about disciplinary literacy. Even as you investigate a problem and you try to find a solution, that involves literacy. And you do that across disciplines. So thinking about English language arts and literacy and English language development, part 1 is interacting in meaningful ways. Part 2 is learning about how English works. Part 3 is using those foundational skills we talked about, but also integrating them, doing integrated and designated ELD. So thinking about cross-cutting themes of the standards, we talked about the themes already. So once again, you just memorize them because it'll be easier. Foundational skills, meaning making, language development, effective expression, and content knowledge. And once again, thinking about how those are cross-cutting themes. They're not in a row. You don't teach them in a row. It's integrated. So how do we ensure that all students succeed? There's some overarching concepts that occur within this standard, within this bill. We have Universal Design for Learning, UDL. We have equity and asset-based approaches, multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS, which involves best first instruction, targeted supplemental instruction, intensive intervention. We have multi-biliteracy and ELD. And then we have dyslexia and other disabilities. We're not limited to just dyslexia. So with that, we want to do an overview of the literacy standards and TPEs, and I'll turn it over to my colleague, Heather Kennedy.
Thank you, Roxanne. So when you're able to look at the slides, we have a nice infographic for you that explains how these sets of standards and TPEs were developed. And they are more alike than they are different. And you'll see that as you look through these different documents. And 7 different sets of standards and TPEs sounds like a lot for these different credentials. However, they again are more alike than they are different. And we started with the multiple and single subject standards and TPEs for literacy, and then moved into developing the education specialist set and the PK to 3 set. When we worked on our education specialist standards and TPEs, we initially began with the idea that we would have one set for all of the credentials, and it became clear that our low incidence areas would really require their own unique sets based on the needs of the populations that those credentials are authorized to serve. And so with that, we began working with some low incidence expert groups to develop the unique standards and TPEs for our low incidence areas. And those were adopted in February 2023 at the commission meeting. So deaf and hard of hearing, visual impairment, and early childhood special education each have their own program standard and TPEs for literacy. Education specialists, mild, moderate, have a shared program standard, but they do have their own sets of TPEs. And those were adopted in October, along with our multiple single subject and PK to 3 literacy standard and TPEs. Again, the theme of this being they are more alike than they are different. The structure of the program standard is the same for all of the credential areas, with the content of each section being specified to the authorization statements. So each program standard begins with the introduction and overarching concepts that Roxanne talked about, and discusses the overarching themes of the ELA-ELD framework and the cross-cutting themes. Then we move into specifically each of those cross-cutting themes, so foundational skills, meaning making, language development, effective expression, content knowledge, and then we discuss literacy instruction for students with disabilities, integrated and designated English language development, and literacy teaching performance expectations and clinical practice. And that structure, again, the same across all of these sets of program standards. We wanted to dive a little deeper into the spotlight on overarching concepts, because this is really what's driving this whole set of literacy TPEs. Roxanne talked a lot about the standards for Common Core and the ELA-ELD framework. You'll see a lot of mention of universal design for learning when you dive into these standards. There's a lot about asset-based pedagogies, socially just learning environments, integration of strands and parts of standards and disciplines, effective and varied instruction. We referenced the California Comprehensive State Literacy Plan, equity, diversity, and inclusion, multi-tiered system of support. We wanted to make sure that this is reflective of the age development goals, families, social emotional learning, and trauma-informed practices. Again, we incorporate the California Dyslexia Guidelines, discuss integrated and designated English language development, multiliteracy and multilingualism, and assessment for various purposes. And while many of these concepts might not be new in the world of teacher preparation. What we're doing here is applying them to through the lens of literacy. And then when we're looking at the TPEs, what's really great about the way that the standard and the TPEs are constructed is that they align with one another. So there are, in the standard sections, there are corresponding TPE elements. So our introduction and overarching concepts correspond to TPE elements, and I'm using the multiple single subject section for reference, to elements 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, and 7.4, and with elements of 710 and 711. Our foundational skills section corresponds to element 7.5, meaning making, with 7.6, language development with 7.7, effective expression with 7.8, content knowledge with 7.9, students with disabilities with 7.10, and integrated and designated ELD with 7.11. And TPEs in clinical practice does not have a TPE element that it corresponds to. And we wanted to discuss a little bit about our time frame for implementation. Going backwards a little bit in our timeline, in October of 2022 was when the commission adopted the literacy program standards and TPEs for multiple single subject for our education specialist credentials for mild to moderate support needs and extensive support needs, and for the PK to 3 credential. The design team—
Heather, can I stop you just for 1 second, Heather?
Yes.
We have now posted the PowerPoint. So thanks to our hero over there, Michelle Bernardo. So if you go to the website on the meeting schedule, and do you want to say what slide you're on so that we can?
Sure, I'm actually on the last slide. So slide 14.
Figure, sorry, Heather.
Just in time, but it'll be a good recap for everybody. So I am on the timeline that's on slide 14. It's a table. In December 2022, our performance assessment design team work group was appointed, and we actually held our first meeting just last week, and it was great. And Kathy was there with us doing wonderful work. And ongoing throughout when these TPEs and standards were adopted through 2020-24, we'll be providing technical assistance to preparation programs to make sure that programs will be approved in meeting these program standards and TPEs. So workshops, implementation and transition plans with feedback, webinars, and office hours that will be ongoing support. In February 2023, our program standards and TPEs for the low incidence education specialist credentials were adopted. On February 20th, 2023 was when institutions could begin to submit the new PK to 3 specialist credentials to IPR, and that has to include the new literacy standard and TPEs. We began the design team work, as I said, in March, just met last week, and we have our second meeting coming up very shortly in 2 more weeks. In 2024 through 2025, we'll begin to review and certify preparation program compliance with new literacy program standards and TPEs. And then by fall 2025, that literacy performance assessment will become operational. And this concludes our presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Purdue and Ms. Kennedy. Appreciate that. How about any questions or comments from committee members? Okay, since this is an information item, no action is needed. And we really appreciate just the depth of work and the volume of work that's gone into creating this as we roll out this other new addition to our work into the accreditation system. Thank you.
And once we get the certification process discussed and try to figure out what it is exactly we need to ask institutions for, we'll probably come back to this body and let you know what that process will be, and get your input and that kind of thing. The other thing I want to say is that all of the changes they've made recently are not yet reflected in some of our documents online. The standards are up. The low incidence ones are not up yet. So there's a lot of work that we're doing on our end to make sure the handbooks are updated and all of those kinds of things. And we're working hard to make that happen. But we may find things in different places at the moment, just because we haven't gotten to that part of the work yet.
Thank you, Ms. Hickey. And thanks to the team. Member Hillis, go ahead.
Just quick question. I'm assuming that if you have a site visit in 24-25, that just gets added to the portfolio.
Well, we're trying to figure that out right now. And if we can streamline it for those going through program review and or site visits, we will do everything we can to make that happen. But we're just now getting to that place of having that conversation about what we
Member
need to do.
Forbes?
Well, this might be a me question.
It's actually a question though for the system as well. So.
True. So let's just say hypothetically we're putting in for a new program, which we are at UCSD. Well, it hasn't happened yet, so it's still hypothetical. I know we received an email just recently telling us that we needed to address TPE 7. No, wait. Yeah. Literally.
7 TPE 7. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In that proposal, but I wasn't completely sure, like, in what depth do we need to address that for IPR for a mild to moderate support needs, for example?
That's very good. So we created an evidence guide for Standard 7. We started with the PK3 credential and we've developed them for the other areas. I cannot remember if they're posted yet for all the areas or not, but we have them. And if we haven't posted them, they're imminent. In fact, I think we did because Santa Clara County was really hot on this and they have a couple of programs in the pipeline. But if we haven't, we're doing it very, very soon. But we've created an evidence guide that just says, in part, we're going to need to see a narrative in this case. We're kind of thinking that the first few that come through, whether it's PK3 or any of the others, will help us again try to figure out how to hone in on exactly what information we need. Clearly, we need to see proposed syllabi and those kinds of things. So it'll be a lot of the same things you're used to giving, but the standard is much more comprehensive. So we're allowing more narrative, kind of like what we used to do. So, and then of course a matrix for the TPEs,
right.
Where.
So I would find this in the IPR section.
Yes, and I wish I had Miranda here, but yes, it would be in the IPR web page, and I will have to look to see if I have it.
Hang on, I've got this.
Yeah, I don't know if I can find it right now.
I can help you find it, Cheryl.
Okay, great. We have done it for PK3. I just can't remember if we've done it for we've posted them for the other ones yet. We're revising all of the TPE matrices so that they include that. That's kind of all the behind the scenes stuff we're trying to get up as soon as possible. Thank you, Erin, for looking there. And that is correct, though the existing programs will have that transition period, but the new programs coming through need to be aligned from the get-go because that law is in place right now.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Just thank you to the whole team, Professional Services Division that's working. I know it's a large group, and Kathy, thanks for representing us. We appreciate it. Okay, we will adjourn now for a lunch break, returning at 1:15 for, we'll start with item number 17 at that time. Okay, we're going to go ahead and re-adjourn our meeting, or not re-adjourn, start our meeting again. So we'll start with item 17. Item 17 is a discussion of the 7th year report from Escondido Union High School District. Consultant Gay Roby will introduce this item. Joining her today is institutional representative Janice Wilson, program coordinator. And does anybody need to recuse? All right, Ms. Roby, will you begin, please?
Thank you. Good afternoon. Hope you had a great lunch. We are talking this afternoon about a 7th year report from the Escondido Union High School District. Their original site visit happened about a year ago from the last day of January through February the 2nd, and their report was heard at the March 2022 COA meeting. That report resulted in a status of accreditation with a 7th year report. So today we're bringing you the details of that 7th year report. The site visit team found all standards met with the exception of one, and that was the Teacher Induction Program Standard 3, designing and implementing individual learning plans within the mentoring system. As you are all aware, this is a standard that is amongst our teacher induction programs for asking a bit too much. And that is what we found with Escondido Union High School District. The ILP, the individual learning plan, should be the only document that is required. And so they have revisited their program structures and done various things to change some things around and have really strengthened their program to make this ILP a individual standalone, that everything else has been relegated to a discussion or a piece of the individual learning plan. In the agenda item, you'll see that the 7th year report is embedded inside of the agenda item, and it lists the 5 things that they have done. They have changed their cycles of inquiry to be discussion-based. Their data gathering tasks, they have focused out a little bit further, so it's more about a classroom of students rather than one individual student. Their learning cycle has been eliminated and replaced with a conversation with the mentor. As you know, the teacher induction program should be a mentor-centric program. And then the last 2, the self-assessment format has changed to a tool that teachers use to self-assess and then talk about and reflect with their mentor about what their progress is in their profession. And then finally, the action research eliminates any documentation, and the mentor again leads them through a series of discussions about what they have learned and how they have grown. So based upon these, we would recommend that the site visit team's concerns regarding program standard 3 have been met. And we recommend that the Committee on Accreditation accept this report for the Escondido Union High School District.
Thank you, Ms. Roby. We now invite the institution representative, I should say, to briefly comment about the report.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me today. And I'm going to be very brief here. I would, again, like to thank our site visit team, including the lead, Pat Mirasich. 1,001 thank yous to Gay for her leadership and guidance. And just to reiterate everything that Gay said, which was in the report, in the past year, the teacher induction team has revisited and revised all of its processes and documents. We have eliminated most of the items to be turned in by teacher candidates and made the ILP much more discussion-based. All in all, we have reduced the number of items that are submitted for review for teacher candidates from 16 to 4, and increased the individualization of the RISE teacher induction program by increasing mentoring opportunities. Overall, the ILP is the central document for all teacher candidates, and the teacher candidate mentor relationship is at the center of the teacher induction process.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. How about comments or questions from the committee? Okay, well, I would just like to say it's always good to see kind of where this all lands at the end and the progress you made and the whole continuous improvement cycle. So congratulations to you and your team and on all that hard work and accomplishment. So this is an action item. Do I have a motion from the committee? Member Cervantes.
I motion is to accept the recommendation for accreditation 7-year report from Escondido Union High School District.
Basically, we accept the report. So, okay, do I have a second? Member Morrison? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion carries and congratulations. Thank you, Ms. Roby and Ms. Wilson.
Thank you.
Okay, as we move on to item 18, do we have the team members from San Jose Unified?
So if you want to let us know if you can see them.
Can see.
Oh, there's one.
Just one other or two?
Just.
Okay, so we're still waiting for one. Are you okay if we begin and bring her in when we can? Is that okay? Or would you prefer, I'm just asking the institution, would you prefer we wait?
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
She is going to come into the room and be on the same square as me.
Perfect. Okay.
We're having internet issues all day long, so.
Okay, well, thanks for making it work, and we're always adapting, so thank you. Let's go ahead and open this item. Number 18 is a report of the accreditation team to San Jose Unified School District. Consultant Roxanne Perdue will introduce this item. Joining her is team lead Rhonda Munoz and institutional representatives Gita Stowe. And do we have, you're Rhonda? I'm Rhonda. Sorry, I want to make sure we do have everybody. So joining her is institutional representatives Gita Stowe, induction coordinator, Melita Nerhood, Director, Curriculum and Instruction, Secondary. Please note that there is also a second link to this item that is the institution's response to the preconditions issues, so we will need to review that as well. Does anybody need to recuse themselves? All right, Ms. Perdue, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, committee members. It's nice to see you again. The report in front of you today includes findings of the accreditation site visit team to San Jose Unified School District that occurred on January 23rd through 25th of 2023. San Jose Unified School District currently provides a teacher induction program. Their visit proceeded in accordance with normal virtual site visit protocol. I would like to take a moment to thank the coordinator of the induction program, Gita Stowe, and her colleagues for their virtual hospitality during the visit. I would also like to thank the site visit team for their hard work and diligence leading up to and during the site visit. The team completed 122 interviews during the site visit. In addition, I'd like to especially recognize Rhonda Munoz, our team lead, for her excellent leadership prior to and during the site visit. I've had an opportunity to work with Rhonda more than once, and she's always excellent. And then finally, I'd like to introduce Rhonda, who will share the details of the team findings on the preconditions, common standards, and program standards, and provide the team a recommendation. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I am Rhonda Munoz, and I had the privilege to serve as team lead for the San Jose Unified School District Teacher Induction Program site visit. First, I'd like to thank a few people who were instrumental for our visit. Our CTC program consultant, Roxanne Perdue, who guided and supported us throughout the visit. My team members, Emily Richards and Melanie Oliver, who worked diligently before the visit and tirelessly during the site visit. And finally, Gita Stowe, the induction director for San Jose. Her planning and organization ensured we had a smooth virtual site visit. As Roxanne said, this virtual site visit took place January 23rd through 25th, 2023. And during the visit, numerous constituents were interviewed and an abundant amount of evidence was reviewed by the team for each standard, which led us to our findings. The team determined that San Jose Unified District Teacher Induction Program has met all general preconditions. Teacher induction preconditions 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 were also determined to be met, but precondition 1 was found to be not in compliance. Throughout the site visit, there was significant contradictory information as we sought and gained evidence on whether or not candidates were enrolled in their first year of teaching, which documentation and interviews show that this does not uniformly happen. As stated on page 6 of the report, there is a wait list of prospective candidates that are not enrolled in induction in their first year of teaching, and in some cases beyond this time. Some of those interviewed indicated that the lack of program mentors or coaches to provide support for the number of candidates eligible to enroll in induction is limited. Furthermore, interviews and documentation indicated that those eligible candidates on the waitlist include candidates with a hire date of after September 30th and out-of-state or out-of-country candidates with a preliminary credential who have additional requirements needing to be met for their clear credential, such as exams. An examination of the wait list showed teachers listed who had been hired after September 30th and were waiting for the following year to be enrolled in induction. There were also numerous out-of-state and out-of-country teachers with multiple renewal codes beyond induction who were not considered eligible and placed on the wait list until they satisfied more of the renewal codes, which may take more than a year. Teacher induction program standards 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6 were determined to be met. Program standard 4 was met with concerns. Our decision for program standard 4, interviews and documentation indicated that at the secondary level, mentors and coaches often do not have a like credential match with their candidates. As the report stated on page 8, we reviewed documentation that confirmed like credential and or content area authorizations are not a primary consideration when making a mentor candidate match at the secondary level, and mentors for candidates at the secondary level do not commonly hold the same content area credential. Interviews with candidates revealed that if their induction coach did not have experience in the candidate's content area, the coach would refer them to someone else, and candidates stated that it was sometimes easier for them to seek out another teacher for questions about their curriculum and any needed just-in-time support. Primarily, the mentors were coaches within the curriculum and instruction department at the district office, and matches appeared to be made based on gathering candidates at the same site for the convenience of the district coach, which led to a significant number of credential content area mismatches. It was additionally noted that education specialist candidates at the secondary level did not have a like credential coach, as the district did not have any special education coaches at the secondary level employed. However, the candidates were assigned to a program specialist at the district level for just-in-time support, but not as a mentor or coach. Further information for our decision can be found on page 11 of the report. Common standards 2, 4, and 5 were determined to be met. Common standards 1 and 3 were met with concerns. Our decision for common standard 1 being met with concerns was also based on the findings through interviews and examination of documentation that revealed preliminary credential teachers were placed on a wait list for various reasons, such as needing to meet those required exams for the clear credential recommendation, and in some cases, due to the insufficient availability of mentors coaches, particularly following the September 30th cutoff date. As stated on page 14 of the report, interviews indicated that preliminary credential teachers who are either hired after the window of September 30th or whose official preliminary credential is processed after September 30th are not enrolled until the following year. Comments shared during interviews indicated that candidates did not receive confirmation of their enrollment into induction until after the start of the school year. New hires were unsure of when they were to start induction. Common Standard 3 was also found to be met with concerns. The team found through interviews and documentation that mentors were not consistently certificated and experienced in the candidate's specific content, particularly at the secondary level. This was found to be most consistently demonstrated in the mentor-coach match with education specialist candidates at the secondary level who were not assigned to mentors and coaches who were credential alike. Additionally, it was revealed that the primary process and criteria for determining candidate mentor matches appeared to be grouping candidates by site in an attempt to match all candidates at a site with one district mentor coach rather than a credential or subject area match. There is structural design concern around a uniform process to assign mentors to candidates. While this is not uniformly found across all preliminary credential types, such as the multiple subject candidate and mentor coach matches, it was clear through documentation and interviews that this is a concern at the secondary level for the candidates. There is a clear gap in the identification and assigning of mentors to best serve candidates. When the program is able to address these issues of the mentoring system, these areas of concern would be addressed and the strengths of the program would be highlighted, such as the amount of support given to the candidates once they are able to enter the program, as well as the additional support that is given to the candidates who still need to meet their TPA or RECA requirements for the clear credential. Candidates who've been working with their induction mentor or coach had high praise for the coaching cycles that they are able to participate in, as well as being able to be observed by the coach. This completes my report as team lead, and I welcome any questions you may have at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Munoz. At this time, we invite the institution representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you that this is not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather to provide any thoughts you had about the visit.
So I just want to say thank you to the team for coming out to review our program. And since then, we've already begun working on how we can improve our program for our induction candidates. And in addressing the first stipulation on precondition 1, I've already started a system with HR that as soon as teachers are hired, we will look them over. We will be notified in the induction program that they do have additional requirements, renewal code requirements, in addition to induction, and we'll create a calendar for them as to how they can complete those before their preliminary expires, and also start them in the induction program starting in the fall. And they will be monitored and supported similarly to how we've been supporting the RECA and the TPA candidates that we took into our induction program over the last few years. We're also going to start 2 enrollment windows, one at the beginning of the year and one in the middle of the year, like December, January. And this was according to HR. Most of our teachers are hired to either start the school year or they start in the middle of the year. So that way we can pull them in. We're also working with HR to hire more coaches and to also hire a special ed coach. We did have a special ed coach until last year. That person left our district, so we did not have a special ed coach for the secondary teachers this year. That is why we went to the using the program specialists. But we were already working on interviewing and finding a special ed coach or several of them to work with our secondary special ed teachers in the induction program. We have also changed what it says in the offer letter, saying that everyone will be put in induction if that is one of the renewal requirements. Their welcome letter, if they're already in our district, they will get a welcome letter inviting them to the induction program within a few weeks of being hired, or this year by the end of this year, and they'll be notified about orientation, which starts in the fall. And then also we have put all of this information into our participation teacher agreement that the teachers learn about and sign at the beginning of the year, so that they understand fully that part of their induction program will be to work on some of their other renewal requirements that they have. And these changes for meeting our precondition 1 is all going to be put into place. It's already started. We already took a few teachers off of our waiting list that were willing to go into induction right now. So we're already matching them with coaches so that they can start the induction program. As far as program standard number 4, that within 1 year, the Institute submit evidence that we have sufficient resources and structures and processes to ensure appropriately matched mentors to serve all eligible candidates and provide evidence that the unit consistently ensures that mentor selection for candidates is consistent with program 4. Is we've looked at our entire C&I department and how we match coaches. And we're going to look at what specific credentials our coaches have at the site and the district level, as well as where is it that we need coaches. One solution that we are going to try is that some of the coaches so we'll have 2 sets of coaches for some teachers. The first set would be the content specialist that would be paired with the teacher and would be meeting at least once or twice a month throughout their induction program. And they would also have, if they have another person, they would also have an induction coach that would be working with them. And either one could do the coaching cycles, either one could help them with the program and completing their ILP. And then also the special education coach is what we had in the past, was that there was a special education coach that was paired with all of the special education teachers, or there were two coaches that were paired with all of them based on credential at the secondary level. And so we are working really hard to hire that person for the fall so that we can go back to that example of our program. And then just making sure that each of our teachers in our induction program has a credential matched coach working with them. And in some cases, they might have two coaches. They might have one credential match coach, for example, science district coach, and they might also be working with their site coach on other induction areas. And so these changes are already being planned, as well as making some changes as to how that information is also disseminated to the coaches and to the teachers. And these changes are being planned out and will take effect for the next school year, 2023-2024.
Thank you. Any other comments, Ms. Nerhood?
No, Gita, I think she said everything that's been started to, that we've been in the process of starting to focus on based on the review that we had. We anticipate that, the way we have this set up will work much better in supporting our teachers. We know that getting all teachers into induction as soon as possible is very important. So we appreciate, that push to ensure that we're doing that. I think, the intention was this teachers had a lot of, assessments or tests that they had to complete. So we were kind of getting them through that first before induction. But, I think the way Gita has set it up now, we'll be able to support them in doing both parts, completing induction as well as the assessment piece. And then in terms of matching our coaches with the teachers, I think this will be able to meet the condition around ensuring that we have credential matches, as we have coaches that are credentialed in all subject areas and, can potentially meet those needs.
Thank you. How about questions or comments from committee members? Did you have a question?
I do have just a quick question. I'm trying to look back to where I was looking at that. Looking at the number of completers, I think you had the last year was 50, and this year you have 150 applicants or enrolled in the program. Did I read that correctly?
We had 50 completers last year, yes, and we only had 124 total. This year we have 150 teachers in the program, but we should have about 70 people completing.
Okay, so basically it's a 2-year process. It sounds like it is, right? Just be sure.
It is a 2-year process. We do have some ECOs, but not too many.
Okay, I was just wondering why there's such a variance between one year to the next, but now I understand it. Thank you.
It's because only half of them finish every time. Yeah. So I do want to just comment too. I know we focused on some of the findings and how you're addressing them, but also Ms. Munoz shared a lot of the positives and really the feedback from those who were interviewed. So I want to make sure that we don't disregard that and that we acknowledge that, because that is the bulk of your program. So congratulations on that part. So this is an action item. Do I have a motion by a committee member? Member Taylor?
I move that we accept the recommendation of accreditation with a 7th year report for I might say this wrong.
San Jose.
Oh, San Jose. Stipulations.
Can you restate it? Sorry.
I think I might be on the wrong one here. Thank you. I move that we accept the recommendation of accreditation with stipulations for the San Jose Unified School District.
Thank you. And do I have a second? Member Lee? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay. Yes. Oh, yes.
Can I ask for clarification?
Sure.
Sorry. I'm the process person. So in your accreditation handbook, yes, all preconditions have to be addressed within 30 days. And so I just wanted to get clarification with you. They did provide all of the things that they're planning on doing and that they're currently doing to address the precondition. I'm just asking the question for clarification's sake, whether you need to see anything more on that, or if you are confident that that's addressed.
So go ahead, Member Forbes.
Well, I was just going to say that perhaps they could explicitly add information about how that's been going in the 6-month report, right? Because you can't really change, you only can enroll them at one time. And so to do that sooner than within this 30 days might not be possible, right?
Yeah. Perfect. So they would give an update in their 6-month report.
Which they would probably, as thorough as all of this looked, they probably were already planning to do that, but just to make sure that that's explicit.
Perfect.
Well said, Member Forbes. Okay, so we had a second, and we so motion carries is where we were, I believe, right? Okay, we voted already. Okay, thank you. I'm sorry for the confusion at the end. Thank you to our team from San Jose and Ms. Purdue, and thank you for coming all the way from Ceres. Appreciate that. Okay, next we'll move on to item 19. And item 19 is report of actions taken to address precondition stipulation by Pasadena Unified School District. Consultant, oh, and I should have asked, do we have the Pasadena Unified reps with us? Okay. Consultant Karen Sacramento will introduce this item. Joining her today are institutional representatives Hannah Lee, TOSA, and Dr. Sarah Rudchenko, Director of Human Resources. And I apologize if I messed up anybody's name. Ms. Sacramento, will you begin, please?
I will. Good afternoon, Committee on Accreditation members. I am glad to report on the actions taken by the Pasadena Unified School District to address the precondition stipulation that resulted from their November 2022 site visit. At the January 2023 COA meeting, the last meeting, the accreditation status granted to Pasadena Unified was accreditation with major stipulations. And at that time, the COA directed Pasadena to provide evidence and information at this meeting on the actions that they had taken to address the teacher induction precondition 4 stipulation that read that evidence is provided that Pasadena Unified School District immediately establish, implement, and enact a plan to develop goals for each participating teacher within the context of the individual learning plan within the first 60 days of the teacher's enrollment in the program. Pasadena Unified induction program immediately began to work on a plan and the needed evidence of compliance with precondition 4. They have worked very closely with staff over a number of meetings the last couple of months, as well as reached out and worked with other teacher induction program leaders to seek guidance. In our meetings, they have sought input and walked me through each of the actions and evidence to establish, implement, and enact a plan to address this concern. This report provides the detail and direction on how Pasadena has addressed the requirements of this precondition stipulation. And based on the effective plan and actions of Pasadena USD, I recommend that this precondition stipulation be removed, and I look forward to working with them as they address the other stipulations from the visit. So I'll turn it over to the Pasadena USD representatives now to give more complete information on those actions taken, and then institutional representatives and I are glad to answer any questions that you may have, and I thank you for your consideration of this item.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Sacramento. We'll now turn it over to institutional representatives to give us any comments or feedback about this precondition process.
Okay, again, Sarah Rudchenko, thank you for having us today. So good afternoon to the commission. So I will go briefly and then I can go into details at each step. So we took 3 major steps. First was compliance with the candidates. That was our first step, ensuring that they understood and had completed the 60-day timeline for their enrollment into their goal development from when they enrolled into the program. So we updated documents and we followed up and attested within a timeline to make sure. We did have 3 of our teachers that did not meet the 60-day timeline. So there was a procedure set in place where we met with those teachers individually and their mentors to determine why they didn't complete it. And so we could make sure that they could move forward in their program. They were based really on illnesses that had occurred with all 3 of these individual candidates. The second thing we addressed was this precondition with the mentor teachers. So we had a meeting as well as with the candidates. We had a meeting with the mentor teachers. We had them attest to the fact that they understood what the guidelines were in the goal development and that they understood precondition 4 and their responsibility. And the last thing that we addressed was the programmatic issues for the future. We'll continue to work with Karen and other members. As she told you, Ms. Sacramento had mentioned that we're working with other institutions to basically refine this process and make sure that our program meets all of the guidelines. If you'd like, I can go into depth of exactly what we did to implement.
Does anybody need further clarification? Any committee members? No, I think what you presented and also what we had in the report was sufficient. How about any other comments thank you from the institution? Okay. How about questions or comments then from our committee members? Okay, then this is an action item. Do I have a motion? Member Cervantes?
Motion to accept the information provided by Pasadena Unified School District in this item and remove the precondition stipulation.
Okay, and do I have a second? Member Hillis? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries. And thank you to the Pasadena team and Ms. Sacramento. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everyone, and a special thank you to Ms. Karen Sacramento.
Okay, thank you. Thank you again. And
I
echo thank you to Karen Sacramento for all her support. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We'll see you and appreciate it. Okay, this takes us now to item 20. The report of the accreditation team to San Dieguito Union High School District. Consultant Christina Najarro will introduce this information item. She's joined by team lead Levon Chastain and institutional representatives John DeGulio and Doug Gilbert, co-coordinators of the San Dieguito Teacher Induction Program, Tina Douglas, interim superintendent, and Marianne Nuskin, associate superintendent of human resources. It looks like we may still be waiting for a few institutional reps. I know we have team lead here.
John, maybe you could weigh in on, okay, sure. There's Doug. We've got Doug and John.
Okay, then does anybody need to recuse? All right, Ms. Najarro, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you and good afternoon, committee members. It's a pleasure to be before you again this afternoon to share the report for the virtual visit to San Dieguito Union High School District, which took place at the end of January and the first day of February for their teacher induction program. I would like to recognize the hard work and the professionalism of the site visit team members, Tanya Almeida, Debbie Hughes, and Linda Mosilnikar, whose review of the evidence leading up to and during the visit made for a well-informed and unanimous decision during team deliberations. The team's organization, communication, and focus, along with the outstanding leadership and guidance of our team lead, Levon Chastain, led to a thorough review of San Dieguito Union's high-quality and standards-based induction program. While I was disappointed not to be able to travel directly to the San Diego area, I really enjoyed my year of work leading up to the visit with John DeGulio and Doug Gilbert, the program coordinators. And I would like to thank the district leadership for accommodating the virtual visit with no technical glitches and seamless participation of all program constituents. As we all know, preparing for a site visit is quite a heavy lift. So it was a pleasure working with Doug and John, who pulled it all off while also meeting their duties as induction mentors and classroom teachers. I would now like to welcome Levon, who will share the team's findings.
Thank you, Christina. Good afternoon, committee members. Thank you for allowing me to be here and present information regarding the accreditation process and the report regarding the San Dieguito School District, High School School District. As Christina mentioned, I'd like to thank our members of our accreditation team, namely Christina as being our CTC consultant. As always, she's amazing to work with. Tanya Alameda, Debbie Hughes, and Linda. And I will mention that although Linda did have some input in the investigation part, she was not able to be in the report writing due to illness. I'd also like to extend our special thank you to the team from San Dieguito School District. They're program leaders, they are co-coordinators, Doug and John. They're also classroom teachers and mentors as well. So they have more than a full-time job. And also their administration team, who's very supportive of them as well. Committee members, you'll notice in the report that the team is offering the recommendation of accreditation with the 7th year report for their teacher induction program. We came to this recommendation through the interview process and after much discussion and deliberation. You'll see in the report that Common Standard 1 was met inconsistently, and that's where our concerns were. While the San Dieguito Teacher Induction Program might be considered a smaller program with only 4 mentors, as I mentioned, the co-coordinators are also mentors with fewer than 35 candidates. The induction program's foundation is grounded in effective mentoring. And that was very evident through the interviews with candidates, both current and past. One candidate said that that person had been so blessed with such an amazing mentor to help them organize everything and walk alongside that person through the first year of teaching. He has helped me maintain a balance between my professional and personal life. I don't know where I'd be without him. That really rang true through all of the interview processes with the candidates. So we wanted to really acknowledge that and highlight that as part of the foundation of this induction program. And while I mentioned it is a smaller program, it is very unique in its approach to running the program, as you've read in the report, but it works for this district. And clearly their candidates feel supported, which is the heart of teacher induction. I'd like to thank John and Doug again for your commitment to the newest teachers in your district. Your clear dedication is unwavering. So thank you for that. And now, committee members, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Well, let's just back up just a little bit. We now invite the institutional representatives to briefly comment about the visit. We remind you this is not a time to dispute the team's report, but rather to provide any thoughts you had about the visit. So any member?
And just to be clear, we are those members, correct?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay. This is our first go at this
I
process.
didn't want to have to say San Dieguito again. So.
That's okay. Well, first off, thank you, committee members, for being here today and for allowing us to be part of this process, and to Levon for being our wonderful team lead, and all members of the committee, and for our support that we get from our district leadership. We have our interim superintendent, Tina Douglas, here with us today. So we feel the process of the visit itself only made our program stronger by highlighting some areas of growth for us that we have addressed, and also confirming areas of things that we know that we've been doing well for several years. So we appreciate that, although it was a lot of work and a bit of a stressful process at times. We knew that it was going to make our program better, and so we're very committed to that process, and thank all of those who were along that journey with us for making it something that was beneficial for us.
How about any other members? Oops, did we lose any other members of the San Dieguito team?
I would just like to echo what John said, that the process has helped us already to address sort of the areas of improvement. We've added some individuals to our advisory board in terms of IHEs, and then also have recently met with our district budget team and executives to figure out different ways to support teachers in this coming year.
And I will add to, as a result of the findings for Standard 1, we received a commitment from both our direct supervisor, the Associate Superintendent of Human Resources, Marianne Nuskin, and our interim superintendent, Tina Douglas, a commitment on their part to support us in terms of our program being able to support candidates from a budgetary standpoint. And the other element of Standard 1, we've been able to make contact with 2 representatives from universities locally, both San Diego State University, Dr. Lupe Buell, who is not only their TPA coordinator, which will help us support our candidates who have those outstanding COVID considerations, but she's also the single subject credential coordinator. And we're planning to meet with her. She's also going to be serving on our advisory board for our upcoming meeting in the spring. We've also secured membership from a former mentor in our program who has since then moved on to the university level at Cal State University San Marcos. And she is also going to be willing to sit on our advisory board in the spring and offer a very unique perspective as someone who is aware of our program's mission and vision and worked in our program and is now on the other end at a university level. So we feel like we're going to really benefit from those relationships there, and also from the commitment on behalf, as I mentioned, from our district to support us in terms of our budget moving forward.
And I just might add just one thing. We've had a lot of changes in leadership over the course of the last several years. And I honestly feel like this process has actually really helped highlight the work that these 2 gentlemen do for the program, and really have provided us some great insight into what the program looks like and how we can make sure that it's sustained over time. So just very grateful for the process.
We'd also like to thank the site team as well as Christina for all the work and just confidence in the process. So thank you to you guys.
All right, thank you. And we do want to just congratulate you too on the, both the team lead and consultant mentioned the kind of the heart of the program and what your candidates were saying, and that's really speaks highly of what you developed. And we're glad to hear that the continuous improvement process is working and that you're taking that to heart. At this time, any questions or comments from our committee? Okay, this is an action item. Do I have a motion? Member Forbes. Thank you, Member Forbes. Do I have a second? Member Hillis. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carries, and congratulations, and apologies for mangling your name there, San Dieguito High School. Thank you.
Thank you.
San Dieguito. Yeah, congratulations. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Ms. Chastain. Thanks, Mr. Haro. Sorry, it's been a long day for us. So, all right. This moves us into the public comment time for our day. Does any member of the public have anything it wishes to say? Please raise your hand in the Zoom feature, or we will wait a moment to see if we have anyone indicating they wish to speak in the chat function. Okay, having no further business, I adjourn the March 2023 meeting of the Committee on Accreditation. The next meeting of the committee will be May 4th and 5th, 2023. Thank you, everyone.